We're back. It's the afternoon of day 15 of the Murdaugh trial. It is February 10th. I feel like we've been in trial for 900 years, and also that this trial just started today. The prosecution has said that their case in chief will be done in the middle of next week. We have heard really interesting testimony from Blanca, the house manager who worked with the Murdaughs in a variety of different ways and was working at Moselle, who made dinner the night that the murders happened. And that was not all Blanca had to say. I am just still processing all of the testimony. But are we going to see Cousin Eddie this afternoon? I think that that's the testimony that should logically follow. The prosecution doesn't always do what I think should logically follow in this case. There have been times their case has been very, very, very hard to follow. Very hard to follow. We will see what they decide to do this afternoon. We still have not heard from the medical examiner. That might be one of the last witnesses to testify. What we need to do is understand the timeline. We need to understand the timeline, and we need to know what Cousin Eddie has to say. But if I'm the prosecution, do I want to put Cousin Eddie up this afternoon, knowing that the defense will then have the weekend to work on their cross-examination? Maybe not, which maybe means you just put the medical examiner or someone else, law enforcement, up this afternoon so you don't give the defense that extra time over the weekend. We can tell that the attorneys are getting a little punchy, but we've seen some really good lawyering today. We've seen some really interesting strategy, and we got to Dick Harpootlian throwing papers in the courtroom again because, you know, Dick's a little bit of a drama queen in court sometimes. Not that the prosecution hasn't been. We definitely get our dramatic moments from Creighton Waters where he wants to be like, but did you really know Alec Murdaugh? We see it. We see that he wants to go there. But Dick definitely has his moments in court too. We're going to roll the intro. We're waiting for court to come back. Y'all, we have a trial today. 15 days in. 15 days in. And we have a trial. So with that, law nerds, we're back. Bring the law nerds. Bring the law nerds. Let's go.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not. Let's get into it.
Things I enjoyed from Blanca's testimony today were these little moments that might tie back later. So I think we're getting some forward looking in this testimony, which I'm very excited about. But woo! Do we know what the Murdaugh drama in court was today? Well, the attorneys were arguing over hearsay objections because apparently Dick Harpootlian doesn't know what a party opponent is. That was the drama I saw today. If there was family drama with people moving seats and this and this and that and that, then I don't know, because I did not have time to process over lunch. Look, I am still processing this morning's testimony because it was a lot. We heard, let's see, I'm just going to go through my notes with y'all from what we heard this morning as we process this together, because if you missed this morning's testimony, it's the day worth watching. It's the day worth watching. One of the big moments that stuck out, look, I've got notes and notes and notes and notes. I'm going to have to go back and watch that exchange. When I do Quick Bits this week, because Quick Bits is a little late, it might just be about today. Quick Bits this week might only be about today and a little bit about yesterday, because the rest of it was like, why did this check? What happened to this check? Alex stole it. What happened to this check? Alex stole it. What happened to this check? Alex stole it. We got a lot of that testimony. Oh, but we've also got the court. So, one of the things that really stuck out to me today is somebody showered. Maggie was worried about finances. Maggie's wedding ring was off her finger and in her car. We had that whole thing about the mistrial. Maggie
Are you all ready for the jury?
State's ready, Your Honor.
The shower was a big deal.
Bring the jury.
Bring the jury! The shower was a big deal. Someone showered. Oh, it could be the groundskeeper today. Chat, you are also right. It could be CB Rowe. We don't know. But I think the biggest thing, and I didn't even put this in my reel when I was trying to summarize, Alec tried to persuade Gloria. Look, it's been a busy day. Alec tried to persuade the testimony of Blanca tried to talk to her about what shirt he was wearing and trying to change her memory about what shirt was being worn when she saw him that night. We now have Alec trying to influence what people remembered or ask them to lie. Twice. We have clothes that are missing. We have guns that are missing. And the puzzle pieces of this circumstantial case are starting to knit together. We also have information that Maggie was worried about money, worried about the pressure of the boat case, that was worried it was a $30 million case and we didn't have that. Was worried that Alec wasn't telling her everything, wasn't truthful with her about what was going on with finances. The jury is present, sir.
Welcome back. Your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I please report? State calls Belinda Rast.
Who? Could you talk to us when you call a witness? Because I couldn't hear you at all. I think he said Belinda, but I couldn't hear.
Raise your right hand, left hand on the Bible. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give report in this trial shall be the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Take a seat at the witness stand.
I think this is Maggie's friend Belinda. I think we've gotten to Maggie's friend Belinda. She and Maggie were texting that morning. So I think this is Maggie's close.
Your name again for the record, spell your last name.
Belinda Rast.
Can you spell it?
R-A-S-T.
Belinda Rast,
Belinda, good afternoon.
Maggie's friend.
Good afternoon. Before we
can't
begin,
hear her at all.
Belinda, are you hard of hearing?
I am.
Okay. So is it important for you that you can read what I'm saying in order to better understand the question?
Correct.
Okay. If at any time I say something and I've turned my attention away, just please let us know and I'll re-ask the question, okay?
Okay.
Maybe they'll stand
All right,
still
Belinda,
and stop wandering.
tell the jury a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? And what was your professional training?
I grew up in Barnville. I went to school right there in Barnville and Hampton, Wade Hampton High School. And
Everybody went to Wade
I'm
Hampton
a
High
CNA.
School.
I worked in the hospital.
She's a CNA.
And home health.
All right, CNA is a certified
Hard
nursing
work.
assistant.
That's correct.
So did you work in nursing before moving into private home health?
I did.
Okay. And are you now employed as a private home care, like health provider?
I'm a private home caregiver.
Okay. And Belinda, I'm going to ask you to put that microphone as close to you as you can. You might have to move it a little bit. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, well, tell us a little bit about what private home care would be.
When you work with one individual or two in a home that's not, like in a hospital or a nursing home, and you take care of that one individual or two at most, and you do their care, whatever it might be. Like when I started at the Murdaughs, Miss Libby was up and about. We just had to watch her, make sure she didn't wander away. She could go to the bathroom. She knew when she had to go, but you had to make sure she cleaned herself and just make sure she eat and stuff. And then with her, her health deteriorated. Her illness got worse. And so she went from that to now she's bedridden, and we have to feed her, turn her, change her, whatever is needed. She doesn't know when she's going to the bathroom or whatever, so we have to monitor her real close.
And I know we skipped ahead, but who do you currently provide home health care to?
Miss Libby Murdaugh.
And how long have you been providing that?
A little over 4 years.
And I think you just said it began as kind of one job, and has it evolved over time into being a more significant job?
That's correct.
Belinda, are you nervous being here today?
I am.
I'm glad this attorney is staying still so
Would you
she can
say that
see
you've
him.
become fairly close to Miss Libby over these years?
I have. She is, to me, she's family. She's like my family away from home.
So you care about her?
I do.
All right. Well, Ms. Rast, tell me about what your typical hourly shift is.
From 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
All right. And do you occasionally work weekends?
I work every other weekend.
And what would your hours be on the weekends?
From 7 p. to 8 a.m. in the morning.
So it
Or
sounds like
9.
she alternates
9
with.
So
Saturday
for
and Sunday.
weekdays,
Shelley
it's
Smith, don't
typically
cut her
8
off.
p.m. to 8 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And how long have you been working there again at Alameda?
Well, I've already been there 4. This year would be my 5th year.
Were you employed during the year 2021, June of 2021?
I was.
All right. On, do you remember the day, June 7th of
Chat,
2021?
Libby is Alex's mother.
June 7th.
June 7th?
That's the, that date. Yeah, that was the day I was called and told to come to the house that they wanted to tell me something.
Were you supposed to work that day? Were you scheduled to work that day?
I was.
All right. And what happened? Why were you not on duty that day?
Well, one of the other employees wanted to be off, and I switched with her, Miss Shelley. She had some plans with her friend, and she wanted to be off, and she asked me would I trade with her, and I told her, yeah, I would do that.
And of all the nurses that work with Miss Libby, is that fairly common? If someone has a conflict, you can call them to try to arrange some sort of change
Yeah.
in schedule? All right, so you were off on June 7th, but you would have been working what hours?
If I had been there, I would have been working, at that time, we were working from, that was on a Saturday, I think, or Sunday. We were working from 3 p. until, 3 in the afternoon until 9 the next morning.
Did you know Maggie Murdaugh?
Briefly, I met her, I had seen her several times at the Murdaugh house, but personally know her, no.
Did you get to know Paul Murdaugh?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did you get to know him?
Well, he came to see his grandparents, Mr. Randolph and Miss Libby.
Did he come more often than perhaps others?
Yes, he did.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about him.
Well, he was always very polite. He always offered to help do things for Randolph and Miss Libby. He would like, Miss Libby liked ice cream, so he would always say, Miss M, Grandma M, because that's what they called her, would you like me to get you some ice cream? And she would usually say yeah, because that was her thing, and he would say, get it for her, and he would tease her about it, but he always give it to her.
So he came around a little more than perhaps any of the other
Of the grandchildren. yes.
grandchildren. Did you get to know Mr. Alex Murdaugh?
I do.
Is he here today? Is he here today?
Yes, he is, right there.
In the blue jacket?
The blue jacket and blue shirt.
Thank you.
I'm very interested to see what she knows, because I've been surprised by
On
what
your
others know.
shift, from the normal
I'm
shift,
very
8
surprised.
p.m. to 8 a.m.,
Thank you, Brandy.
how often would you
Check.
say Mr. Alex
Christopher.
stopped by in those years that you've been there?
Not very often, not during that time period. 6 or 7 times, maybe.
In the 5 years you've been there, the 6 or 7 times?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned Mr. Randolph. Who was he again?
He was Miss Libby's husband.
Did you take care of him? Was he a client of yours?
Well, he was not my patient, but I helped him. I assisted him when he needed help.
Was there a point in time when his health became fairly poor and that you decided he needed some help?
Yes, there was.
And if you were there, would you provide that assistance to him, whatever he needed?
I did.
All right. Was there ever a time when Mr. and Mr.
Pauses.
Randolph, do you know when he passed away?
Yeah,
Counsel,
June
be
the
clear.
10th.
So it was shortly after the murders of Maggie and Paul?
Correct.
Before he passed, was there ever a time when the defendant came over later at night?
When he was called, well, not late at night. Well, yes, it was. It was on the 6th, I think it was, the night before Maggie and Paul. I was there that night, and he and Miss Maggie came. They brought donuts
Okay. Why would they bring donuts?
because Mr. Randolph had asked for some donuts.
Because donuts
Do
are
you like
delicious.
donuts?
Well, they were Krispy Kreme, and you couldn't get them at the time in our area.
So Mr. Randolph liked Krispy Kreme
Yes, he
donuts.
did.
All right. Was Mr. Randolph, was he awake though when they came there?
No, he was not.
And did he ever actually see Alex and Maggie?
Not to my knowledge. Alex did go to the room and look in at him, but he was asleep, and they chose not to wake him. I told them they could, but they said, no, let him sleep if you can.
And how did he react when he got up and you told him that they visited?
He was, he said, they came tonight, and I said, yes, sir. And he said, that's strange. I said, well, you asked for these donuts, and Miss Maggie brought these donuts to you. And he says, well, is there a raspberry one? And I said, yeah.
Huh.
And I got it for him, and he ate a little bit of it, and then he said, I just can't eat the rest.
So he thought it was strange
But
that they came that time of night?
Yeah, he was surprised.
Was there anything
lots of
that,
Krispy
I know
Kreme in my
Mr.
area.
Randolph was very sick, but was there anything that was going on with his mental faculties?
No, he knew what was going on right up to the last time I spoke to him, which was the day before he died.
Chat, fun fact, I have never had a Krispy Kreme donut, ever.
And tell us a little bit in your experience with treating Alzheimer's patients,
And now
people
it's
with
like a point of pride.
declining dementia.
They
Tell us a little bit about your experiences with them and how they maybe at night, how they rest and what your treating them
Well,
involves.
anytime sometimes they're fine with whatever goes on around them, they just ignore it, or they speak out in the beginning and say what they want to say. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it don't. As it progresses, they get more like a baby. You know, if you wake them, sometimes they'll go back to sleep, sometimes they cry. It takes time to calm them and, just guess, because you really don't know. Like a baby, you don't know what's wrong. They might be hungry, they might want something to drink, they might just want to be turned. Whatever the situation is, you just have to guess and keep trying until you get it right.
And what time did you put Miss Libby in bed?
Generally at 8 o'clock. But now she don't get out of bed. She has a total care, she stays in bed. We give her night medication at 8 o'clock, which helps her to rest, along with other medications she has to have.
If Miss Libby does go to sleep, what would you prefer as her provider, healthcare provider?
To let her sleep, but if a family comes by and they say they want to wake her, I don't object, I let them wake her.
Make the court's indulgence.
I'm going to beg the chat's indulgence. I know. Krispy Kreme wasn't near me. There was a donut place near my high school. It was called Best Donuts. They were the
Yes,
best
sir.
donuts. I'm a diehard and I love them. So when Krispy Kreme
Dick Harpootlian. Can you read my lips? Dick
Maybe,
Harpootlian.
I
made
think
it to
so.
Southern California,
And
I didn't try them,
I
and now it's a
represent
point of pride.
Alex. Okay. Now,
and now we're on
let me
cross.
just focus in on, I guess, the reason you're being called here today. You were asked by the state, was it strange for them to show up that Sunday night at late?
It was unusual.
That was the word you used, not strange, and that's the word you used in your statement you gave about 10 days after the murders to
Objection.
SLED, isn't that right?
That's correct.
That's,
Did you know they'd been to a ball game in Columbia before they stopped by? Did Mr. Murdaugh
No,
tell you
sir,
that?
I did not know that.
Okay. And if Mr. Murdaugh, Alec, had stopped by
I don't know if any
normally
of this is relevant.
during the daytime, you wouldn't have been there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And Alex and Maggie that Sunday night stayed
Did you catch the
About
dick
30
shade
minutes.
on,
Approximately
I guess
30
this is why the
brought
state
brought
called
it was
you?
late.
It was late, and
How late do you think it was, like 11 o'clock?
I think it was closer to 9.
Okay, 9.
It
And
hadn't been long, put Miss Libby to bed, and she was starting to doze, and Mr. Roundoff was already asleep.
Mary, I have had voodoo donuts. They're great. I love a donut. Chad's not surprised.
and Miss Libby, let's say 2-3 years ago, in 2021, what was her state? She has dementia, is that correct?
She does have dementia, well,
was it back
Alzheimer's dementia. It is basically the same thing.
Okay.
It affects the body in the same way. At that time, she could not walk, but we could pick her up and put her in the wheelchair, pivot her, and take her and put her in the bed, and she could feed herself. But now, she is deteriorated, and she can't feed herself. She can't even give herself a drink of water.
Mentally, did she recognize her sons when they came to see her?
Sometimes, sometimes not.
And has that gotten progressively worse?
That is how it works.
Was she aware of the fact that her husband of, I think, 40 years had died, Mr. Randolph?
We told her, we took her to the funeral, but within a couple of weeks, she doesn't, it didn't seem to
It's just
recognize
heartbreaking.
the fact.
I don't know if any of this
For
is
about
really
I say,
relevant,
a
Dick,
month,
but
she would call for him from time
This
to
is
time, and
heartbreaking.
then now she doesn't.
While you were there, when Paul or some other family member would come over, would that calm her down?
Sometimes. Paul had a way of having a calming effect on her. He would always remind her of the past. Like, Grandma, you remember that whipping you give me with that fly swat? Things like that.
And did she watch television a good bit?
hey,
She still does, but she doesn't. She used to would play along with the games, but by 21, she wasn't doing that. She was just watching.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence.
I don't know why any of this is relevant. So for those of you asking, isn't this private medical information? All of the medical privacy acts have an exception for giving
Thank you, ma'am.
testimony
You may
in
step
court.
down.
So if medical records are subpoenaed by court, they can come in. So
Next witness.
State call Supervisory Special Agent Matthew Wilde.
back to police, we'll see what that is. Supervisory Special Agent Matthew Wilde. If Dick asks what's so supervisory about it, I will fall over. So there's a lot of, there are provisions in most of those things that will, most of the privacy acts that will allow you to testify in court for things to be given with subpoenas in court. So while it feels uncomfortable, it is not improper for that to be discussed in court. So it's just heartbreaking testimony, but I don't know what the state was getting at really.
My name is Matthew, last name Wilde, W-I-L-D-E.
All right, good afternoon, Agent Wilde.
Good afternoon.
All right, where are you employed, sir?
I'm a supervisory special agent with the FBI. I'm assigned to FBI headquarters.
That's why there's
but
no
I
beard,
sit
y'all.
in
He's
Rock Hill, South
FBI.
Carolina.
All right, and specifically, what are your job duties in Rock Hill, South Carolina?
Right now, I supervise 5 full-time agents and about 17 part-time folks in my unit, the Cellular Analysis Survey Team.
Okay. And explain to the jury what the
Cellular.
Cellular Analysis Survey Team is.
So the Cellular Analysis Survey Team, or CAST, is a group of about 80 special agents and task force officers. We're all across the country, and what we specialize in is analyzing historical phone records, specifically the location data associated with those.
All right? And is that something that you do personally in your job?
It is.
Okay. And explain just a little more. I know we'll get more when we get into your report, but what do you mean when you analyze cell phone location data?
Location
What
data.
are you doing when you do that?
Location data.
So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the call detail records. These records are very much like the old paper phone bill we all got in the mail maybe 10, 15 years ago. They have the date.
Has it been
they
that
have the
long?
time that the calls occurred. They tell me who called who. So if I made a phone call or somebody called me, those numbers are listed on there. They have the duration of the call. The major difference between the old paper phone bill we all got in the mail and the records I look at is the records I look at have a cell tower, so they tell me which cell phone tower
I wonder if
was
he's
used
the one
to
that
handle my
plotted the
call.
cell towers
And then they tell me which side of that tower
triangulated.
was used to handle the call. So what I do is I take that cell tower information.
Yep.
I can compare it to a list of all the cell phone towers for that carrier, whether it be Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T. And then I can take that date, time, and general location from the cell phone records, and I can compare it to a known date, time, and location. So most of the time, when law enforcement is investigating a crime, they generally know what date, time, and location that incident occurred.
Okay. And as part of your cell phone analysis, do you also take location data directly from phones, if available, and plot that as well?
I can do that, yes, yes, sir. So when law enforcement downloads a phone, it comes in a big report, and there's a location data section on there, and I can also I can analyze and map that data as well.
I just want to know
And how long have you been doing this cell
if
phone
Maggie and
analysis?
Paul's, or Maggie and Alex's phone were together
Part-time since
location-wise.
2012,
When those calls were going back
full-time
and
since
back and
about late 2016.
All right. And have you undergone any training to help
Probably a
learn
lot.
cell phone location analysis?
Hopefully
I
it's
have,
not
I
a
have,
nothing
over,
burger.
I have over 400 hours of training. In 2012, I went to a course called Basic Project Pinpoint, where
I did-
3 days we learned how to read the records, compare the records to a
I wanna go
tower
to
list,
FBI
and generate
training.
a very basic map.
I wanna know.
I used that technique in every one of my
question I
cases
wanna
from
answer.
2012 until 2016. In 2016, I attended Advanced Project Pinpoint, which was a week-long course. And during that course, we took a deeper dive into the different types of records we can get from the carriers and how to use them. At the conclusion of that course, I was selected to go to the CAST certification course. At that time, it was 4 weeks. The first week being training on radio frequency theory, so learning how radio waves travel between the phone and the tower and then back through the network. The second week, we had we had presentations from each of the carriers. So Verizon came into our training. We learned from the network engineers. Those are the people who design and maintain the network. And we also learned from the records custodians. Those are the people who provide the records to us. The third week, we did drive testing. So I have a piece of equipment I can put in my car. I can drive around a specific cell phone tower. I can figure out generally how far that tower reaches.
Y'all,
And
I
then
see
the
you
fourth
asking
week
about
was a
closed
moot court
captioning.
exercise where we had a real case.
It's not being
We had
supported
to read the
from our
records,
source
generate a
network
map,
today.
go out, do a
I don't
drive
know
test,
why.
and then testify
Normally,
to it.
law and crime has closed captioning.
And
It's
at
why
the
I use
conclusion
them.
of that, I was
To
certified.
date, it is
Now,
not
every
working.
year since then, I've attended the CAST recertification
The internet's been real
course,
squirrely the last few
which
days.
is usually 4 days where we go back and meet with all the carriers.
But it
we
is
get
not-
technology updates.
it is not working.
And then because we're located around the country and sometimes in different parts of the world, we do case presentations to each other, what we're seeing in our respective areas.
Okay. And in your role as a CAS supervisor
gonna answer
and
this
prior,
at
have
break.
you ever been qualified as an expert in court before?
Yes,
How many times?
over 130 times.
Holy
So
shit,
you've done this
that's
a time or
lot.
two before.
Yes, sir.
At this- and
130 is a lot for an expert
When you've been
witness.
qualified before, specifically, what have you been qualified as?
I've been qualified as an expert in historical call detail record analysis and cellular technology.
All right. And, Your Honor, at this time, State would move to, as Mr. Wilde, or excuse me, Agent Wilde, as a expert in historical cell phone location analysis, if I said that correctly, sir.
Very interested in location. Please make this fucking clear.
He's so qualified.
130 is a lot
and,
of times for an
In your
expert
role as a
to
CAS
testify
supervisor,
in
you
court.
became involved in
It's
this
a
case,
lot.
is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you can recall approximately when you became involved? And how?
I believe, so I wasn't a supervisor at the time. I was just I was a regular agent, but I was asked in either it had to be in July of 2021 to provide some assistance in this case.
Okay. And asked by who?
I believe it was Dylan Hightower.
Okay. All right. And specifically, at least in July of 2021,
course it was Hightower.
what did he ask your assistance for?
Well, he had obtained a few sets of call detail records on some
closed
of the phones
captioning
in
has
this case.
given up today. I don't
And
know
there's a
why.
question as to whether or not where there was a 911 call that was made, and the tower that was using that 911 that was
Oh, I want to
the
know.
tower that was used to handle that 911 call. There's a question as to whether or not that tower could provide coverage up to Mozo.
Okay. And so there was a question about
Did he think he was in the
why
car when he made the 911 call
first bounced
too?
off a tower in Hampton
That's correct.
County, correct?
Yes,
If this
sir.
is a
And,
nothing burger, I'm going
Moselle,
to
to your
be
knowledge,
frustrated.
is in what county?
I think it's in Dorchester County.
Or could it be Colleton County?
Colleton County, yes.
And your assistance was asked to help figure out if that was possible. Someone could be at Moselle and a call could bounce off the tower in Hampton.
Yes.
Correct? And the CAS team, does it have tools that can assist in figuring that out?
Yeah, we have something called the Gladiator Autonomous Receiver. And it's basically a box that we can put in our car. It's a computer, and it has a couple of receivers in it.
If he
And
made the
as we
911
drive
call from the
around,
car,
that box maps out the latitude and longitude, so like where we are with the box, and then
If
it
he
measures
made the
all the
911
signals
call
from
from
the
the
cell
car,
towers that the
that's
box
it.
can see in its area. It's very much like the old Verizon "Can You Hear Me Now" commercial. It's just doing that hundreds of times a minute. It's just constantly doing that as we drive around.
And just to simplify
back
that
and
a little
listen to
bit,
that
it would be
first
fair
call
to
another
say
time.
that what this tool can do is help you map specifically where cell coverage exists.
call is coming
and where
from
it doesn't.
within the
That's
car.
correct.
Okay. All right. And as you move forward, did you go ahead and conduct that test?
I did. Myself, as well as Dylan Hightower and another agent with the FBI, we grabbed 3 of those pieces of equipment, 3 guards. We put them in 3 cars. And over 2 days in the beginning of August, we basically drove everywhere all around Moselle, all the way down to Hampton, all the way up to, I believe it's Earhart, and over to 95.
Did you also go on the property at Moselle to take these measurements?
I personally did, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And afterwards, were you asked to prepare
I'm
a
riveted.
report and to take all these cell records in and prepare a report and provide this report to show locations of various phones involved in this case?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Today's a murder trial, y'all.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 458. And let's have you take a look at it and see if you recognize it.
Yeah, this is the report that I
Was
generated
the
for this
beeping the
case.
seatbelt indicator?
And when you
Maybe.
say generated, what
But I
kind
thought
of
the seatbelt
information did you
beeping was
take
the
in to help you generate
seatbelt
that
indicator.
Well, so I had to take in the cell phone records, so the records that were received from Verizon. I had to take those in. I had to also take in the Cellbrite downloads that came from one of the phones. And then I also had to, after we did the drive test, create some maps to kind of show and display that data.
Okay, and for this report specifically, there's a couple of numbers that we don't want read, but whose records did you look at? And for Maggie, Paul, and Alex, you can read their numbers. But whose Verizon records did you look at?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the end of your question.
I'm sorry. Whose Verizon records did you look at?
I looked at Alex's, Paul's, Maggie's, and then there's Marty Cook and CB Rowe.
Okay. And did you prepare a report showing locations off of towers where those various phones were?
He'll be
on the
able
days
to
and,
juxtapose the
of and
calls from
surrounding the
Moselle
murder?
that are known
I
from
showed
Moselle.
the general area
And the
where
others.
the phones were on the days surrounding the murder.
And,
Are they the
and you mentioned
same?
you got some Cellbrite data on a phone, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember who you got that location information from?
I got that from Britt Dove at SLED.
Okay. And specifically, whose phone whose location data did he provide you?
That was Paul's location data.
All right. And did you plot those locations provided on your report?
I did.
All right. And those would include times as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Y'all, he'll be able to
right,
say where the known
At this
calls from
time,
Moselle
State would
pinged off
move
of.
to enter Exhibit 458 in evidence.
And in an area like
Submit it.
this, with
All right,
not a
and
lot
Your Honor,
of,
the state would move to enter this under sealed because there's some phone numbers.
with not a
included.
lot of cell phone towers,
have
they're
a
entering the
redacted
phone
copy
records
that
under
we're
seal,
gonna
fine.
publish,
With not a lot of
for
cell towers,
for now,
if
no.
all the calls from Moselle are heading off of one tower, and that's not the tower the 911 call hit off of, that is going to be
All right.
really difficult evidence to controvert or to
Wow,
interpret
I'm gonna
more than
have to
one
sit
way.
down with the court's
That would be
permission.
very
And
sound.
we're gonna pull this report up, and this is gonna be a little tricky. We got some.
Please have
some
a
tight
summary
areas to work in,
report.
but Can you stand in that area there?
Please have a summary report. So that's why I'm
moment.
very interested. If he did not get home yet and called the 911, that's going to be very interesting information. So we'll see. We'll just see. We'll just see. I want to
Okay.
know. Tell me the things.
So Agent Wild, I'm going to hand you this, and I'm going to essentially ask you to start going through this report with the jury to explain to them. I'm going to probably only interrupt if I feel like something needs to be clarified. You just tell me when you need to click to the next slide, but at this point, I'm going to let you take it away, sir.
So the first slide
calls for
here is
narrative.
just, who I am,
Objection.
my case number, and then the telephone numbers involved. So we can go to the next one.
If I'm the jury, I am perked up right
The
now.
second slide, it just gives a background. So I was asked by SLED to conduct analysis in this case is the first paragraph. Methodology is the second paragraph. So again, I take the call detail records. These are kept by the carriers for billing purposes, for some other technical purposes, but I take these call detail records. I compare the cell tower data on those call detail records to a list of towers, and they tell me whether that phone is in Hampton, whether that phone's in Charleston, whether that phone's in Spartanburg or Greenville. It gives me a general idea where the phone is. And then, so the cell site locations.
Yeah, y'all, we have a murder case today.
The towers can change.
3 weeks
over
in, a
time,
murder trial
okay?
started.
Just in the last couple of years, we've gone from using 3G to using LTE, and now we're all have the 5G bar on our phone, right?
Most of the
So the tower list change, the towers change, and we get updated tower lists on a regular basis from the carriers. So I use the tower list that was in effect around the time of the incident, so around the time of June 2021.
Which is very important that they're not
survey
using an
analysis
updated
section.
tower list. They're using
So
the tower
again,
list at the time.
We took 3 pieces of equipment and we basically drove everywhere, all the way around the around this area, around the area, trying to record all the signals from the different cell towers. What that gives us is a general area of it. Actually maps out the area of where there's coverage from those cell towers and cell sectors.
Also, if y'all want to know how much your cell phone knows about you,
And then-
today's the day
yeah,
to
my
tune in.
conclusions, you can go on to the next.
Because some of you are going to be like, fuck
So
it, I'm
this
using
slide
my
just shows
phone.
different types of cell phone towers. Okay, I draw your attention to the one on the top left. We have these speaker-looking devices hanging on this tower.
They need to
Those are the
explain this to the
antennas that
jury. This is
transmit and receive
foundation.
a signal to and from a phone. Okay, a phone is very much like a car radio. As I drove here
They
today,
need the jury
I
to
tuned into my
understand.
favorite radio station or my favorite frequency.
Nobody listens to
and,
radio anymore, bro.
Somewhere
They need
as
to
along my route,
understand
there's a
the
radio
technology
tower.
and how it
emits a
works,
signal at that
to
frequency.
understand that it
My
is
car
what it
radio
is.
can receive that signal.
This
I
data
listen to
can
my
only be
favorite station.
interpreted a very few ways, and
The major difference
this is the
between a car
foundation for
radio
that.
and a cell phone is that with a cell phone, that information has to go in 2 directions. It has to be able to be received from the tower, but you also need to be able to send that information back to the tower. So those are the
I'm
antennas
teasing.
that
I still
send and
listen to the
receive
radio
those
too,
signals.
sometimes.
The second thing about this is you'll know that you'll
mostly.
realize those antennas, they hang on a triangular shaped structure. Most of the towers are designed to cover a full circle or 360 degrees. And the way that the carriers accomplish this is by breaking that circle into 3 sides or 3 sectors. So later on in my report, you're going to see these wedge shapes. And I like to just think of the center of that wedge shape as nothing more than the center of one side of this triangle. Going on in a lot of other places, urban, more suburban areas, there's not really room to build like these big towers like this one on
They
the
put 'em
top
on
left.
buildings.
So they start putting them on the sides of buildings.
Yep.
The smaller ones will be on top of light poles in the cities.
Oh, yes,
So just
Ryan,
because they're
he's
not,
holding
just
a
'cause you don't
yardstick
see it or you don't
because
realize that it's there, it's still there.
the defense engaged in
Another
so much
example of
dick
that, of
measuring
course,
this
is
morning that the
my
FBI
favorite,
agent
pine
needed a
tree.
yardstick to make sure
These
we were
are
all aware today.
all over the place, and they usually sit about 150 feet taller than
why.
all the other trees around them. But at the top, there's these spray-painted antennas, and they provide the same service as a regular tower such as this. Good. All right, so
They're just
again,
like
the tower
doing
is
a lesson
separated
on cell
into
phone
3.
data.
Most towers are separated into 3 sides or 3 sectors. When I look at the call detail records, they tell me the tower number, say it's 23. They tell me the sector, say it's 1. What I have to do is I have to go into the tower
Chad,
list.
I'm not wrong.
I have to look up tower number 23, and then I have to look up sector 1.
Yes, or
And that
fake
tower
contact.
list is going to tell me which way that sector faces. What I'm looking for there is something called the azimuth or the orientation. Azimuth and orientation are just 2 big scary words for direction. Okay, so if the
I'm
azimuth
not
is
scared
0,
of words, sir.
all that means is
I
that
like
side of
words.
the tower faces north. Okay, if the azimuth is 180, all that means is the tower faces south. So what I have to do is I will draw a line at 0 if it faces north, and then I'll go 60 degrees in one direction, 60 degrees in the other direction. That gives me 1/3 of that tower, 1/3 of that circle, which is the sector in which the energy is being emitted.
I don't think Alec knew how much data could be
So I
determined.
display that information
either way.
using this wedge shape. So you can see this is a 120-degree wedge. There's just shaded area in the middle. Okay, just because that shaded area is there doesn't mean the phone has to be within that shaded area.
And this is
Radio
where there's
frequency is like
space.
it's like light. It's like if I shut all the lights off in this room and I shine a flashlight to the back of the room, it's just gonna be emitted in that direction. That's all I'm saying by showing the shaded area, that the energy from that tower is being emitted in that direction. Good. And then this is how I map the sectors on the map. I use that wedge. Each one of these green dots on this map happens to be a cell tower. And
Lawyers
so
are not
generally the
tech
phone's
savvy.
going to be somewhere within this wedge.
Most lawyers are
within
not
the
tech
arms
savvy
of
at
this
all.
wedge. But somewhere between the tower that's being used and the next one in that direction, but closer to the one that's being used.
He's getting through all the background, and all we want to know, like I have
All right, another
done
set
so
of
much cell phone
records
testimony.
that
I
we
am
can
just
get,
here going blah
something
blah blah.
called
Tell me
RTT,
where the call came
or
from.
timing advance.
Is the call coming from
This
inside
is
the
a
car?
Verizon case, so the records we have are called RTT records. What RTT records are is it's an estimation of the distance.
He looks like
between
he's
the
giving a
phone and the
presentation at a
tower at the
continuing
time that
education course
transaction
right now.
occurred. All
The
right, so
defense
what
could
we get
object
is a
this is
regular
all
wedge,
narrative, but they
like,
didn't.
We know which tower.
The defense is just like
We
fucking
know which
whatever.
side of the tower is being used, and then Verizon tells us approximately how far the phone is.
But it's
from
interesting that
tower
they're
at
letting
the
him
time
just
that
teach
it's
the
used.
jury.
Okay, this is based on like a basic time over distance theory. We know how fast the signals travel. They travel at the speed of light, and then all we have to do is time them from the time it takes to go from the tower to the phone and back to the tower, and then we can estimate the distance. So the phone, when these types of things occur, we have these records. What we're going to have is this hot dog, or this wedge, this shaded wedge here, with a shaded
Hot dog?
band
Why is
here.
there so much food
And
in
that phone's
court
going to be
today?
somewhere inside that band, or just slightly inward from the band.
Why is
And
it
would
hot
another,
dog?
could you use another word for that shaded band? Could you call it an arc? Would that
An
be
arc,
accurate?
yes, yes, sir.
Good, he asked a question. He did say hot dog. I don't know why.
All
I
right,
got
so now
distracted.
this slide, this
You
is
said
going
hot
into
dog
the
shape.
actual case here. So this is showing the legend. So this is where all the locations in this case are located. Starting with the top left one.
Majestic Wildfire. I love
the top
learning
one,
how
the
stuff
red
works
pin
too.
here in the center of the page. That's the address of the crime scene on Moselle Road in Highland.
Linux, he's the most experty expert that ever
Next
experted.
is
They did that earlier.
the green pin, which is Almeida.
I can't wait to see these
And
demonstratives later
then
because they've got
next
pins.
is the orange pin. That's 1104 Luray Highway in Hampton, South Carolina. The
Is that
purple
where
pin
Maggie's phone was found?
is 123 Russell Road in Brunson, South Carolina.
And
Or-
and I'm going to stop you
are
there.
these the
Okay,
towers?
Let's go on to the next slide.
What are the pins?
And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do, Agent Wilde, as you go through some of these, the colors kind of bleed sometimes on these monitors. So if the jury may not be able to read some of the place names from where they're at. So each time we go to a different map, if you just kind of provide a general orientation of where, the cities are and some of the roads are.
The
Just so
FBI brought the
jury can
demonstratives.
consider
Thank you,
this, please.
FBI.
Okay, that works. All right, so this map, I can't read the time frame.
I know we should all be getting continuing education for this. We've all learned something.
All right, and see, that's cut off on the very
The
bottom there.
defense knows what's coming.
It's okay, we'll figure it out. Can I
I just wonder.
Okay, well, we can go through the exhibit.
I don't know. We've had other stuff that's been a nothing burger, so I'm anxious to see if this is or not.
And I'll keep up.
Okay,
so you
that's fine.
can see.
I just don't know. I just don't know.
Okay, so this is.
Thank you so much.
The jury gets to see
All right,
everything
so
he's
what's
doing.
the time frame?
We just
So
want
So
to
the
see
time
it.
frame for this one is June 7th, 4:53 p.m. to 6:09 p.m. And this is the activity for Paul Murdaugh's phone ending in 7845. So the blue pin is the address in Okatee, South Carolina.
So
And
they're talking about
What times
Paul's,
do you show Paul's phone
Paul's activity.
in that general area near Okatee, South Carolina?
So between 5:40 and 6:03, generally in that area.
On the afternoon of what day?
On the afternoon of June 7th.
Okay. All right, and there's several hits off several towers, I
Yeah,
think.
there's some down here, there's some at the bottom, so 453, 511, it's using the tower just south of there, and then 521 through 609.
So we're getting maps of the pings.
And just so the jury understands, you know,
Please.
this is that sector you're talking about a few
Yes, sir.
minutes ago, right? So when the tower pinged off this, in this sector at this time, in theory, that phone could be anywhere within this sector, correct?
That's correct. That phone could be anywhere within that sector. It could also be slightly outside of that sector because those lines, I can't go out to this tower and look up and see those three lines coming off. It's kind of like a fuzzy area between the sectors.
So the sectors aren't hard and fast every time?
Correct.
Okay. But, you know, as just as in your general experience, you know, within what range will you usually see a phone ping off a particular tower? What's the general
It
max range? I
depends
know
on
it
where
could
you
be-
are.
Well, it can vary because it depends on where the phone is. You know, in a rural area, the phone could be 6 to 8 to 10 miles from the tower, and it can use that tower. It just kind of depends on where it is.
Because towers usually pretty far apart out in rural areas.
In rural areas, I mean, they're set up for population density. So in rural areas, not a lot of population, a lot of farmland, they're going to be further apart. Whereas if you get closer into the city or suburban areas, they're going to be closer and closer together.
And as just, as a general rule, do cell phones try to connect to the nearest tower where they have the best signal, correct?
Well,
Well,
the cell
those are
phone
two
tries
different
to connect to
things.
the tower and sector it sees as the best signal.
Those are two
That's
different
not
things.
always the nearest tower, but most of the time it is.
And
That's
so
signal.
Paul's phone is in the area of Okatee, starting 5:30 PM to about 6:09 PM on the afternoon of June 7th.
That's correct.
All right, and just so it's clear for this jury, we say Paul's phone, you can't testify as to who was holding that phone, correct?
That's correct. I have no idea whose hand that phone was in during each one of these
Except
calls.
in the
All we know
police
is
interview,
that was the phone
Alex
that-
said Paul's
that
phone
we
was
believe
always
he
in
was
his hand, so.
But Paul's phone is in these areas during these times.
It is.
Okay.
And Paul takes a video with it later that night, so we know Paul has his phone, but he can't say who's,
Okay,
the
we'll continue with
prosecution has to
the,
prove he had
Paul-
it in his hands, but his
Paul's
actions
phone.
prove
So
it.
this next slide is 6:17 p.m. through 7:30 p.m. And basically at 6:17, the phone is way south down here on the bottom of the page.
And let's do some general orientation here. What's this town right here? Can you read that?
Yemassee.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is where?
That's Barnville,
Okay. And that green was again what?
Alameda.
Okay. All right. And red, and this red up here is?
That's the Moselle.
Okay. All right. So what do you see this phone doing during this time frame starting at 6:24 PM?
Yeah, so between 6:17 and 6:53, it's traveling north from the bottom of the page up to the side and then kind of to the top. And then finally, where it uses sector 1 here at 7:05 and 7:30, it's consistent with being in the area of Moselle.
Okay. And this is just a pinging in this area at 6:24, correct?
Yeah, these are just the phone calls. These are the phone calls that are coming on the phone. Those are the towers that the phone is selecting.
These
as the
visuals
best
should be
tower at that time.
available
And this general
later.
direction seems to be traveling up north, and Okatee would be somewhere down in this area off the map, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's off to the, for the record, off to the right and below where this slide is. And then you see the general progression north towards Moselle, correct?
Yes.
And we see sector 3 here. And what time is it pinging in sector 3, just due south of Moselle?
It's at 6:53 p.m.
Okay. And then we see it switch over to sector 1, which is a north-facing sector, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what time is it in sector 1?
7:05.
Okay.
And then at 7:30, it uses that same sector 1 at a distance of 2.91 miles, which is in
So
the
it's-
area of Moselle.
So it's 7:30, it's somewhere in this arc like we talked about before, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The arc, the number provided by Verizon is not necessarily 100% accurate, right?
It's not, because depending on where the phone is, if the phone's out in the middle of the field, 1 mile from the tower, it should register at a mile. But if the phone's in a house, or let's say the phone's in this courtroom, those signals have to go through the exterior walls of the courtroom, hit my phone, then go back out through the exterior walls. And it might slow the signal down, which will make the distance just slightly further.
So it's generally reliable, but not necessarily exactly accurate when you see that RTT distance, correct?
Here's
Not-
the thing.
It's not exactly accurate.
Okay. All right,
We
but,
know
regardless,
that Paul
at
takes that
6:53,
Snapchat video when
it's
they're
pinging
around
to
the
south of
property.
Moselle in Sector 3, and at 7:05, it's pinging in the same sector where Moselle is to the north, correct?
Yes.
So
And so what does
it's
that?
narrowing
what
down the time of
inference
that
can you draw
Snapchat
in your
video and how
opinion
long
of what
Alec
the
had
cell
to
phone
change
did
clothes and
between
things
those
like
two
that.
times?
Well, between
I'll have to go back to
6:53
my
and
notes to see when
7:05.
Snapchat said that video
I mean,
was.
it could have
Tree
moved
video.
from Sector 3 to Sector 1, or it could have been on the line between Sector 3 and Sector 1 at that time and just bounced back and forth.
But you would agree that generally this direction is towards where?
That's a
towards
cross-examined
Moselle.
question. You would agree.
Okay, and we're on the next slide. And
We
tell
have the
us what we see. This is
Snapchat
still Paul
time. I
Murdaugh's
just have to
phone.
go
It
back
is.
and
This is
look.
7:30 p.m. to 8:40 p.m.
Okay.
So here on the right side of the page, starting at 7:30, there's those activate RTT hits at,
And that was the same from the last
that's the same from the last one.
slide, okay.
Right, and then 7:33, there's another RTT hit and a call, or I'm sorry, another RTT hit on this tower to the bottom left. And then where those arcs overlap, when they're in close timing to each other, that's generally where the phone is going to be. And so you can see that the arcs overlap in the area of Moselle.
So by about that time, 7:30 to 7:33, would your opinion be
Remember,
that
there are
cell
two
phones in that
Snapchat
area?
videos.
It has to be, it has to
The
be
one
somewhere
I'm
in there.
talking about is the tree video. The tree video's in the like
And then we have
7:30
other
range.
calls at 8:40,
And then there's a
at
later one that
8:32.
was recorded at like 8:44.
Okay.
It's that
8:40,
7:30-ish one that I'm thinking
pings
of right
off
now
of
while
this
they're
sector
doing
at
this.
8:40,
Yes.
is that correct? And that's sector which off this tower?
That's Sector 1 off of that tower.
I think we just moved to
And again,
8:40 p.m.
Same direction as Moselle.
Yes.
So now we're gonna see, we know Paul's at the kennels because of the video, and now we'll
Okay.
get an idea
And
of
what
when
do we
you're at
see
the
on
kennels,
this
where
slide?
does the phone
This
ping?
is
Because we have that video.
9:03 p.m. on June 7th. And so here there's there's a call, and then there's an RTT distance of 3.11 miles.
Okay, and let's just do some general orientation again. The red is what? This red marker is what?
That's Moselle.
Okay, and the green is what?
It's Alameda.
Okay, and then what's this town right here?
That's Barnville.
Okay, all right, and we have a hit at 9:03:22.
Yep.
All right, and what? And it's off sector what?
It's all Sector 3, but again, there could be a little overlap there between Sector 3 and Sector 1.
Sides of the
And so there's
tower.
a chance, I mean, the phone's likely still in the area of Moselle, it's just using a different sector.
Okay, your opinion is it's likely in the area of Moselle.
Yes. I know for a fact that there's signal from this sector in the
And
area
then
of
we have,
Moselle.
you have slides to show that.
I should, yes.
Okay, and then here we have at 10:34 PM, another hit.
Yes,
And
sir.
again, this is the same map as last time, correct?
It is.
This is Paul's phone.
10:34 p.m. It's using it's the same map, just the sector is changed back to Sector 1.
All right, and it's- and in
This
your
is right
opinion,
before
that
Paul's
is
phone
still
goes
pinging in?
dead.
It's consistent with being in the area of Moselle.
We know that.
Okay, and now we're transitioning something else with Paul, correct?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
This is the iPhone location data that was taken from his.
So they're
from the download of his
overlapping
iPhone.
the iPhone data from the
And we have
hardware
some
from the cell phone pings.
times
These are
here.
different location
And
data
Can I
that
go
they're
ahead one
gonna.
slide? Because it has more information. It shows a
iPhone
overhead map
location will give
of the
more
area.
specific data.
And let's talk about this. You've been out to this property, correct?
Yes, I have.
And this is where? What is this called?
That's Moselle.
And what am I pointing at right here in the bottom middle part of the screen?
That's the main house there.
Okay. And then this area up here in the basically due north of the residence, what is this area?
That's the dog kennel or the hangar.
All right, there's a big hangar building.
Yes,
And
sir.
there's a smaller series of dog kennels right next to the hangar building.
Yes.
correct? Okay. All right, and we have some location data from Paul's phone here, correct?
Yes, we do. So between 7:45 and 7:56, all these circles in and around the road and close to the kennels, that's where the phone is being used. And then at 8 o'clock, There's 2 hits down south of there at 37 and 100 meters.
And we see these red circles. What is that red circle and what does it represent?
So the red circle is it's the area that the phone could potentially be within. The phone shouldn't be any further than, the phone should be where the pin is, but it shouldn't be any further than the exterior of that circle.
So sometimes the GPS information provided by a phone isn't exactly 100% accurate, correct?
Correct.
But it does, the phone information provides information that allows you to determine how accurate the location information is.
It's a level, it's basically a level of accuracy. So if the level of accuracy is like 3-4 meters, I mean, the phone's going to be within this general area around me. But if the level of accuracy is, let's say, 5,000 meters, that just tells me it's here in town somewhere.
We don't understand meters,
All right,
sir.
and we see some of
Sir?
those distances
I know
listed
you're in the
your
FBI,
data, correct?
Yes, sir.
but you
So
say
it's a
meters and I'm lost.
745.31 hit, we see, and what is this number?
That's the latitude and longitude, so that's like the specific point that the phone returned. As
These are the
where-
GPS
And then I
points.
see a number next to that. What is that?
That's the radius, so the red circle in meters.
And talking about this again, data point, what does that number say?
48.
48.
Yeah, the 48 meters.
Okay, so from the information side, excuse me, so from, if I understand what you're telling us, is at 7:45:31 PM, the phone is at this lat, within about 48 meters of this lat and long,
Yes,
correct? Okay, it's, all right. And then, we see some different uncertainty area. So at 7:46:09 PM, there's about 165 meter circle. So that's a much bigger circle.
Yes, sir, it
correct?
is. Yep.
All right, and then.
The international audience is like, yeah, yeah, and the jury's like, what?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
The jury's like,
you talk
meters,
about
we
these
don't know
hits.
her.
And down here at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
The international audience is like, sure, sure.
We're going to advance one more slide to show the digital map. The previous slide had the exact same data, correct?
To be fair for me, I am very spatially challenged, so it
So we're
doesn't
still
matter.
looking at a overhead aerial view of Moselle,
You
correct?
could say
Yes.
meters or feet, I
This
still
is
wouldn't fucking know.
8:04 to 8:05 PM.
Okay. And so now we're seeing some hits across this Moselle Road, correct?
That's correct.
We're gonna see where
And,
Paul is based on
again,
the
we see
GPS on his
the
cell phone.
location error value, and it's somewhere within these circles.
It is.
At those times,
Yes,
correct?
When these are made public, it will be very much easier to go through it. It's hard just listening to it, but they are going through
Okay.
maps of where Paul's phone was moving based on GPS right now.
Now, we're at 8:06:20 PM, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at 8:06:20, where do we see the phone?
So at 8:06:20, it's here on near Moselle Road, just north of the driveway.
Okay.
And from there, it moves towards the dog kennel or the hangar. It moves towards the dog kennel or the hangar, then kind of up the driveway, and then finally winding up back at the house at about 8:14.
So we see a series of location hits, correct?
Yes, sir.
And according,
wonder if
looking at the
8:14 's when
timing,
they
it would
ate
appear
dinner.
that the phone moves back through the kennels, correct?
Yes.
And then moves up this road towards the house at the main residence, correct?
Yes.
And we see some circles associated with this data, but several of these circles start to get pretty small, correct?
Yes, they are pretty small.
Angel
and what
Buckley
are those size of those circles?
asked who
20
put
meters.
Bubba
are
back in the
final
kennels.
ones that are,
I don't
in and
know.
around the house.
And just so I clarify, we see the blue pin, right?
Yes.
And that represents the actual lat long that was recorded by the phone.
Yes, it does.
And the air, the 20
He's
meters.
just saying Latin
means
long, like the jury's all on the
almost
same
certainly
page.
within that
All right.
circle.
Yes.
Within that particular pin.
This is Paul's phone still.
And when you see a series of kind of rapid pings like this within a short period of time, generally, what does that tell you is going on with that cell phone at that time?
Well, the phone's using some kind of application, some kind of map or something that's using its location data.
All right.
Like Snapchat?
And then, regardless, by 8:08:45 p.m., where is Paul's phone?
It's back at the house.
Okay, and that's got a low error of how big? I'm sorry.
An accuracy of 20 meters.
An accuracy of 20 meters. Okay, and that makes a pretty small circle around the size of that house.
It does.
Correct? Okay. And there's another hit at 8:14 p.m. at the same place.
Yes.
it appears?
Yep.
Okay.
I wonder if this is when they were eating
Now we moved
dinner.
on. We're still looking at this overhead map of Moselle, and we have some more hits starting at 8:14 and going through to 8:35:07 p.m.
The hard thing is this is
And all
really
these seem to
important
be centered
testimony.
around the residence.
They
It's
are, yes.
hard to
Now,
follow
there's some
without a
varying
map. I
degrees
get
of
it.
accuracy, correct?
Yeah, there's one that goes up to 165 meters, but most of them are between 20 and 79.
This is using
8:35:07 p.m.
phone GPS.
That phone, Paul's phone, is within 20 meters of the Moselle residence, correct?
That's correct.
And then they're going to go through Paul's phone, Maggie's phone, and
All
Alex's
right, we're
phone.
going to skip one more slide, just to keep with the digital map. And just so it's clear to the jury, this slide contains the exact same information, correct?
Yes, it does. And then I just switched the map over from the regular street map to the Google Earth map.
Okay. All right, so now we see another series of phone location for Paul's phone. And this is again the night of June 7, 2021, correct?
Yes.
All right, 8:38:07, where do we see that phone start pinging?
Again, there's a 56 meter.
wonder if he's heading back to the kennels?
hit at right around the dog kennels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at
So by
8:38:07, Paul's back at the kennels.
8:07 p.m., that phone's within 56 meters of the dog kennels, correct?
That's correct.
This attorney's doing a good job of kind of
And
summarizing as
you
we
see some more
go.
hits. There's a little bit larger of an error starting at 8:50.
10 minutes before the
8:44.
Snapchat video
Then
or
we
the
see a
video
hit
with the
at
dogs.
8:44:55 p.m.
Paul's at the kennels.
And it says media location. What does that mean, sir?
So in the cell report itself for that record,
That's the video.
it came from a movie file.
That's the video.
That's where that location was generated from.
When you take a video,
And
it
have you
captures all that
seen
data.
that video that location data came from?
Yes, I have.
The dog
Just
video.
generally speaking, what is that video?
That's the video inside the kennel when Paul's playing with the dog.
Okay.
So this is going to show Paul's
And
movements
that
that
video
night.
was recorded.
And then they're going to want to,
The timestamp
link
recorded
them up.
video is 8:44:55, correct?
Yes,
And that matches exactly with the dog, correct?
it does.
And I don't see a number next to that data point. Why don't I see a accuracy number?
Not 100% sure why there's no accuracy number, but we know the video was taken inside the dog kennel.
'Cause the video
we see
shows
the
it.
video. And then the next one right after that,
it's
I mean,
on
basically
video.
there's records just before at 8:44 and 53 seconds and 8:44 and 56 seconds, and both of those put it in the area of the dog kennel.
And I'm going to skip one more slide here.
And that also tells you how accurate it is. The
And
video
just look
says
at
it's
this
there,
overhead
the
map
GPS
of
says it's
Moselle,
there, the
correct?
ping
Yes.
says it's
We
there.
have, looks like a hit.
Three.
Location data at 10:18
Yes.
PM and at 10:18:03 PM, correct?
Yes.
And both those are centered on where it is.
They're, again, just right there in the vicinity of the dog kennel.
Michael Peppercheck
Now,
with a great reminder to the
did you
chat.
plot every single location data point that you received from Lieutenant Dove?
No, I did not. So between 8:44 and 10:18, there was a series of location data points, but most of them were between like 4 and 6 or 7,000 meters. So they wouldn't, in my opinion, they weren't super helpful to figuring out exactly where that phone was at that time.
When you see an accuracy of that big or uncertainty of that big, in your opinion, is that location something that can be, is that reliable information?
I mean, not 100% reliable because it is such a huge, area. It could
Are they
be-
still talking about Paul's
And-
phone? Why is
and
Paul's
Going back to the
phone
last
pinging
couple slides, between then and now.
with such a different accuracy after the
between
murders?
8:44
I have a question
PM
about that.
On this 10:18 PM, did you see any information off of Paul's phone that suggests it went anywhere but stayed at those kennels?
Oh, thank
No.
you. He answered my question. Thanks, counsel. Appreciate it. You're a
All right,
peach.
now we're going to move on to Maggie's.
No data and then they indicate
Yes,
Paul's
sir.
phone moved from 8:44 to 10:18, and we
we're
know
gonna
shortly
rewind
after that
back
the phone
earlier
powers off.
today.
Good, good, good.
And let's look at this map first of all. What is this map generally of?
This is like the West Ashley area, so just south of Charleston.
Okay. And we see some tower hits in this starting at,
Yeah, about 4:25 p.m. and then ending at about 7:05 p.m. The phone's generally in this West Ashley area.
so Maggie's phone remains in that general area until about 7:05 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Generally, the prosecution does, beat a dead horse, but on this,
Right,
they have to
and
go
here-
point by point, or it will get
Okay,
objected
This is a
to.
bigger
'cause
map,
there's-
so let's get oriented. What is this this area
It
right
could
here?
get objected to
Yeah,
for
so
no
that's,
foundation.
North
They
Charleston
have
that
to
you're
go point by
circling there.
point.
Charleston
And
down here.
Charleston just to the south of that.
So this is Maggie's phone.
And then out here, what is that red marker again?
The red marker is Moselle, the green marker is Almeida.
All right, and then we see a series of hits with Maggie's phone. You've labeled them, what, 1,
They've got
2,
different maps
3,
for different
4, and
phones.
5?
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And these start at what time?
They
And
start
go
at
to-
7:07 and end at 7:50.
Okay, and so generally speaking, what does this indicate Maggie's phone is doing to you?
It's
during that time?
traveling from the Charleston area west towards Moselle or Almeida.
So this is foundation that's needed because the prosecution, if they're going to do a
And
summary
here,
map,
we
has
have
to
a hit
establish
at
every
7:50
single
PM,
point.
7:50, 20 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and where is this?
That's right in Walterboro, actually, right here.
Okay, right here in Walterboro,
Yes,
correct? And, did you take a look at what appeared to be Maggie's general route from Charleston out towards Moselle during that time?
Yes.
And what road would she most likely have been on to travel that way?
Route 17.
And so that route would have taken her right through the center of Walterboro?
It would have,
I
yes.
think right out here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so she's somewhere in this sector at 7:50 p.m., probably right in the middle of Walterboro, correct?
Yes.
All right. And just in your analysis, did you just looking for a rough number here? Did you calculate a rough drive time from here at the center of Walterboro out to Moselle?
Yeah, it was under 30 minutes.
Roughly 30 minutes,
Roughly
give or
30
take? Okay. And this ping is at 7:50, 20
Yes.
p.m., correct?
So again,
Now,
they're
were there any
plotting,
other?
they're plotting everybody's evenings.
Did you get any more tower information off of Maggie's phone? for
They
the
could have
rest
done
of
this
the evening?
earlier in the
No,
case. It's
that
interesting they're doing it
7:50
now.
p.m. was the last tower hit I received, that was on the records for Maggie's phone.
Okay, and there were some phone calls to Maggie
What?
after 7:50 p.m., correct?
Yes.
But were any of those answered?
No.
And so you don't have any good tower
Nothing.
information for her phone after 7:50 p.m.?
What? Nothing from
Now
Maggie's
we
phone
moved
after
on,
7:50
and we're
p.m.
looking at whose phone?
We're looking at Alex's phone.
All right, moved
Okay.
on to
And
Alex.
what time frame are we talking about
That's odd.
here?
This is 4:10 p.m. to 6:25 p.m.
Okay, let's get oriented here. This is the red marker is what?
Moselle,
And the green marker is what?
Almeida.
Okay, and then the town of, what's this town right here?
Hampton,
Okay.
and Barnville is just south of there.
Okay.
All right, now
And we
we're on
see
to
some
Alex's
hits
phone.
Off these two towers between 4:10 and 6:25 p.m., correct?
Yes.
All right, and are you familiar with the location of the law firm formerly known as PMPED?
Yes,
All right, and is that in the vicinity of Hampton?
it is.
And would that be?
They do have
within
text
these,
on her phone after
areas
this.
that Alex's phone?
Yeah, that would be consistent with the activity.
She
on
did
phone.
have Find My iPhone because
And
that's
that's
how
up
they
until
found
when?
it.
6:25 p.m.
Odd. They had Find My iPhone on it because that's how they found it after it was tossed. But not having location
And
data
here we
after
are,
7:50 is
the next
weird.
slide.
But we know some
And
overwrote.
Again, orientation, green is what?
Almeida,
Red is what?
Moselle.
Okay. And what information do we see here?
Here we have a number of calls between 6:40 and 9:10 p.m. and they're all using tower 159263.
And that's.
That's the
this
one
tower?
shown, which faces north and is consistent with being in the area of the Moselle property.
911
So
calls at
starting
10:06.
6:40
That's what I'm
PM,
waiting for.
You see him north in this sector, which is the sector where Moselle is.
Yes, sir.
So 6:40 to 9:10, his phone's hitting around Moselle. We know he starts driving around 9:06 p.m.
All right. So here we are. Let me go back.
Here we are with the important shit.
And
Where
these-
was it?
The rest of these phone calls ping in the same sector up until 9:10, 47. correct?
Yes.
All right. And now,
And now what?
what time frame are we talking about with this slide?
Now we're looking at 9:12 to 9:18.
Okay. And in the 912 phone record, where does Alex's cell phone?
This is
ping?
while he's
What
driving to
sector?
his mom.
Uses sector 3 on tower 159263, which is the one closest to Moselle.
All right, so somewhere south or close to the border of this tower, correct?
Yes.
And then at 9:18 p.m., we see a ping off this tower, correct?
Yes, off of 159-217, which is closer to Barnville.
And it would be in the north, most likely in the north side of that.
Yes.
Tower, correct.
So that's on the way to Alameda to see his mom.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and now this is the same two calls, correct?
It is.
All right, but now I see some, looks like some shaded overlay over this. I'm gonna give this back to you. What is that shaded overlay? What does it mean?
The
So
jury's
the
gonna
shaded overlay is the coverage area.
The jury's
that
going
we
to
were able
understand this
determine
better
from doing that
because
drive
they
testing with our
have
equipment.
the
And
images.
so, basically, we
on
had to
this.
drive everything all around these addresses, and then go back and look at the data, and then it creates these bubbles that show us where the coverage, where the equipment saw that tower in that sector. And so here you can see that at 912, it's using the sector, it's kind of highlighted in green. And then at 918, it uses this one at the bottom,
They are showing it on the screen.
159-217, that's in pink.
Okay. And so what your drive test found is, you know, you kind of described those neat sectors at the
Good luck on
beginning,
your
but
surgery,
in reality,
Teresa.
they're kind of more messy, correct?
There are a lot more messy.
And from what you found from the actual field testing is, you could get coverage off this tower in, looks like it's just south of Varnville, anywhere in this pink area.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And that's in that particular sector. What sector is that again?
That's sector 1.
All right. And then this green area, you could be anywhere in this green area and
Remember,
potentially be
the
getting
defense is gonna
coverage
have
from
competing
this tower
experts to all
up
of
north
this.
towards Moselle.
Yes.
Now, there's some overlap, though.
There
in
is.
those, correct? So there's some areas where a phone could potentially connect to either tower, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And,
But in 2 minutes, I mean, the calls are 6 minutes apart.
Right.
So, I mean, within 6 minutes, the phone used both of these sectors at the same time.
Lemon Crush, I
And
keep
just as
hearing
a final
Farmville
point,
too. I miss Farmville.
again, the sectors aren't exactly black and white, neatly drawn, correct?
Correct.
And so in reality, like this little green corner above this tower, a phone could be in that area and still be pinging off this sector
Yes.
of the tower.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And this coverage is something that, you told the jury about the drive test, correct?
Yes.
And that's when you guys went out with actual equipment to measure the coverage in all these areas, correct?
Yes, sir. We drove all of these roads, and again, that equipment, every few seconds, it's recording the GPS point.
So
and
they
then
did
it's measuring the
experiments
signal level from all
on
the
the
towers and
signals.
sectors in that area. And then what I do is I go in and I can read the tower and sector that was used by looking at the call detail records, and I can go in and select the coverage area or this blob for that tower and sector.
So let's go on to the next slide.
Okay.
And we see now, we have some information starting at what, 9:20:34, correct?
Yes, sir. So at 9:20, from 9:20 to 9:46, there's a handful of calls, all using tower 159-217, but using sector 2 that kind of faces towards the Alameda address.
Okay.
And then there's also one RTT hit at 9:34 at about 2.09 miles, which is consistent with being in the area of the Alameda resident.
So driving
And that
back
starts
from
at,
Alameda.
that phone's within the sector, it's starting at what time?
9:20,
Okay, and it, last phone call in that sector is at what time?
9:46.
And Alameda is in that sector, correct?
It is.
But if a car were driving up this road towards Warrenville, and I believe that's Highway 378, or 278,
Yes.
excuse me, that's still in that same sector, correct?
It is,
So
yes.
if someone's in a vehicle on that 278, right there in that sector, you would get the same information?
Yes.
So, so at 9:46, if a car has already left Alameda and we're on 278, it would still ping in that same.
It should, yes.
Who is coughing? We are riveted. We want to get to 10:06. What happened at 10:06? Where is the phone at 10:06? And is it just triangulation data? Because we don't have a lot of
Go on to the
GPS
next
data,
slide.
but what's the GPS data?
And this is still Alex's phone, correct?
It is. It's just a zoomed-in version of the last slide.
Okay, so it's the same information, but looking closer, and I probably should have made some of those points on this one, but we see that road 278 here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Within that sector, and there's Alameda, it's also in the same sector, correct?
It is.
And so, in theory, unless, for the RTT hit at 9:34, the phone could be anywhere in this arc,
It
correct?
could be anywhere in that arc.
And for the rest of these hits, It could be anywhere within this whole sector.
It could be anywhere between this tower and sector and the next one in that direction.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll go back. This is the next slide, and this again, Alex Murdaugh's phone, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, and we see some hits starting at 9:52:59 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir. So 952:59, the phone's using the sector with the 240 in it. So it's not using the one that faces towards Alameda yet. I'm sorry, towards Moselle yet.
Yeah, and the red, and what's the red?
It's Moselle.
And the green?
Is Alameda.
Okay, so just in the previous slide, we saw the phone down here in the area of Alameda, correct?
Yeah, it was using that tower near Alameda, but facing Alameda.
And by 9:59 p.m., Alex's phone is pinging off this tower right by Varnville, correct?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat
What?
your question?
Which
No,
tower?
at 9:52 and 9:53, the phone is using the tower closer to Moselle,
Okay.
but on the sector facing towards
Okay,
Varnville.
all right. And then we have a 10:06 hit, 31, correct?
Yes, sir.
10:06
And
what?
do you recall what particular phone call was placed from Alex's phone at 10:06 and 31?
That was the
911.
911 call.
All right. And it hits off of which tower?
It hits off of the tower closer to Varnville.
Okay.
What?
But then at 10:17, there's another hit with Alex's phone. And which sector is it pinging off? at
That's
10:17.
that's using the zero azimuth, so sector 1 that faces towards Moselle.
So that initial 911 call hit off
The
this
phone's
tower
moving.
way down here by Varnville.
Because the
did.
phone's moving.
And that was one of the reasons you were called in to help figure out why that happened, correct?
I was, and I figured out why it happened.
Why?
It's because, so in radio frequency, the higher the frequency, the shorter the distance that it can travel. The lower the frequency, the longer it can travel. So on this tower, there's two different sets of sectors, and one is at a higher frequency, and one is at a lower frequency. So this call here happened on a lower frequency, and therefore the signal can travel slightly further.
So it's, in your opinion, it's consistent the phone could have been up here at Moselle at the time of that 10:06 911 call.
It could have been, yes.
What?
Yeah, next slide.
So the phone could have been at Moselle.
All right, and we're going to come up on them in a little bit. You
Nope.
have some more detailed
That's what he just said.
maps
The
showing
phone
the actual
could have been up at
direction.
Moselle.
Yeah, I think this
Is
is
it?
yes, sir.
Could have
All right. So what information do we see on this slide?
So this is the tower and sector being used at 952 and 953. And again, this blob shape here, that's the coverage area for that tower.
Okay.
And so you can see it's mostly in the center here, but there are some dots out, but most of it kind of faces towards Varnville.
Okay.
So
And
nothing.
the calls at 9:52, 9:53 occurred somewhere within this sector, correct?
Yes, they did.
And that line with the slightly shaded area represents the actual real coverage that you went out and measured where that phone could have been during that time.
That's correct.
Next slide.
So where was the phone?
All right, and we zoomed in here, correct?
Yeah, so we zoomed in, again, now we're zoomed in kind of on the Moselle property, and just showing that there's a couple little specks of coverage there from this tower and sector
And again-
on that property.
Which tower is this? This is the tower that's closest to Moselle.
It is, yes.
But you do actually see some actual coverage area right there. on the
Yes.
corner. And the red is right there, correct?
Yes, the red is Moselle.
Next slide.
So where was the phone when it made the 911 call?
Okay, and here we are, we zoom back out. Again, red is Moselle, and this is that tower just down south of Varnville, correct?
It is. So that's the tower south of Varnville, or near Varnville, facing north, and this is for the 911 call, again, on that lower frequency. So the signal goes a lot further. Actually, there's little specks all the way up here near Anson.
Okay. So this is Varnville, this is Moselle, and this is the coverage that you actually went up, and measured in with real equipment.
Yes, sir.
And you've determined all these shaded pink areas, if a phone could get coverage in this tower sector in those pink areas.
And
Yes.
And we see some of that pink area up right by Moselle, correct?
We did, yes.
Next slide.
and
All right, and this is a 1017 ping, correct?
Yes.
All right, and it's in that sector, now we're back to the tower that's closest to Moselle, correct?
It is.
And that's that north-facing sector.
Yes, it is.
Next slide.
so the phone doesn't get back to the closest to Moselle Tower till 10:17 p.m.
All right. And
Okay,
here we see, again, that 911 call at 10:06:31 PM, correct?
Yes, sir.
That originally pinged off of this Varnville tower, correct?
Yes.
But we see, this is the two coverages overlaid between these two towers that both have coverage at Moselle, correct?
Yes, it did.
And you
meaning,
see some of that pink from that Varnville tower up right on the Moselle property, correct?
Yes.
But you see more from the green from this tower sector that covers that same property.
That's correct.
meaning,
So, go ahead. Next slide. And here we're zoomed in, correct?
Yeah, we're zoomed in now, and now we have both of the coverages showing. So we're showing the pink, which is from that tower down by Varnville facing north, and then the green, which is from the tower right here close to Moselle, also facing north. And you can see there's coverage from both of those towers actually in the area of the kennels.
Okay. And in your opinion, that phone could have been right in that area for both these phone calls at 10:06 and 10:17 PM?
Yes,
And that's Alex's phone, correct?
yes.
And it does appear there's more coverage from the green sector off of this closer tower, though, correct?
There is.
the phone could have been? If the phone could have
Okay.
been.
And this is just the remainder of the night for Alex's phone, correct?
It is, again, 10:19 to 11:18 PM. And the phone mostly uses that tower closest to Moselle. There is another hit at 10:21 on the tower near Vaughnville.
Next slide.
Okay,
All right. And then continuing, what's the date on,
So
this is the next day at
Yeah,
6
could have
a.m.,
been-
correct?
So
Could have been
this
gets
is
the
June
pros-
8th, starting at 6:31 a.m.
Could have been gets the
ending at
prosecution
8:54 a.m. And the phone's using the tower and sector consistent with being in the area of Almeida.
Okay. So this is the morning after murders, correct?
It is.
Next slide.
so he goes back to Almeida, okay,
And
we
this
know
is
that.
continuing the same, this is the next day, June 9th of 2021.
It is, and same tower, same sector. Time period is 7:52 a.m. to 8:36 a.m.
Next slide. All right, and here
I'll be
we
interested
see
to
some
see their
information from
points.
June 10th of 2021, correct?
Yes, sir. From 3:32 a.m. to 8:49 a.m. Basically using the same tower and sector here, just to the left of Almeida, except for this one RTT hit at 3:32 in the morning, where that band overlays on top of the Almeida address.
Next slide. And now we're on June 11th for Alex's phone, correct?
Yes,
Why?
again in the morning, 3:52 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. And it's using the tower and sector consistent with being in the area of Almeida.
Next slide.
Why?
And this is June 12th of 2021.
Yep, 1:41 a.m. to 8:14 a.m. Again using the same tower and sector near Almeida.
Okay. Next slide, please.
Why are we on June
13th
10th,
of
11th,
2021 for
12th?
Alex's phone, correct?
Yep, first call in the morning is at 9:09 a.m. And again using the same tower and sector consistent with Almeida.
Okay. Next slide. Now we're on June 14th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what are the times do we see these pings?
12:04 a.m. and then 9:53 and 9:55 a.m. Again using that same tower and sector consistent with Almeida.
Did you see any phone calls from Alex's phone between 12 a.m. and 9:53 that you're able to get tower information
No.
on that day?
No, sir.
Next slide. This is June 14th, later in the day, correct?
It is 10:27 to 12:29 p.m. 10:27 a.m. to 12:29 p.m. And now it's using the tower facing north out of Varnville, but also using the tower facing into Hampton.
Next slide. All right, and this is June 14th, continued.
Okay,
And does that phone remain in the area of Alameda the rest of June 14th, at least until 4:26 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, next slide. All right, and then here we're on June 14th. And starting at 4:33 p.m. up to 6:08 p.m., where do we see Alex's phone move generally?
It moves generally from there just south of Almeida over towards Charleston.
And that's this area up here. And it's specifically, I don't know if you can
Okay.
read it, but what is that, Eric? Can you read that place name where that last tower is on the map?
Is it Somerville?
Does that say Somerville?
I think so.
All right,
I just
next
don't know
slide.
why the days after matter that much.
Okay, June
I'm not quite
14th
sure what they
continued.
mean.
Yes.
And this is up in the area of the same Somerville, correct?
Yeah, this is in the area of Somerville, so between 6:08 p.m. on the 14th and 8:10 a.m. on the 15th. All the calls hit that tower and sector in Somerville.
I think it's because he said he never went back. And that's what they're
And then on
showing.
June, later that, June 15th, what do we see the phone do on June 15th?
It travels from Somerville back to Hampton between 8:10 a.m. and 11:40 a.m.
Okay, next slide. All right, and then now we're on June 15th for Alex's phone, and what two towers is his phone pinging off of for most of the day?
Again, the one in Varnville facing north and the one in Hampton facing towards Varnville.
Okay, next slide. And then June 15th, and his phone is consistent with the remaining area of Alameda during those times, correct?
Yes.
And those are 12:35 p.m. to 2:33 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Next slide. Okay, and just real quickly for these last three slides, you also reviewed the records of CB Rowe and Margie Cook, correct?
Yes,
And you reviewed them for the night of the murders, correct?
I did.
And in your opinion, from the information you could see from their call records and their tower information, were either of those phones in the vicinity of the murder location between 8:50 p.m. and 9 p.m.?
No.
All right.
What about Eddie?
No further mistake.
All right, we're on to cross-examination. The judge.
Let's all stand for a moment.
The judge gave everybody a stand break. It'll be interesting to see what happens with A, the defense expert, and B, when we can see this overlapping data, to take a look. Here's the thing. What they got from the phone is it moving back and forth, and then, well, it could be at Moselle when the 911 call was made. Okay, so it could be at Moselle. That doesn't really
can be a
help
little
us very
dry,
much.
and as an
Hey,
attorney,
I
you
know
may
some of
be
these
losing
folks,
the attention
but
of
this
the jury.
is why I
personally think
tend
that's
to.
the case.
I hate it when they take a stand break and then they switch to something else because I want to see what's happening in court. So we're going to switch coverage to a different station because I want to see what's happening in court. Everybody's standing. So, what about the coat going out on the quads? I don't know, but we know that they were out around the property because we see the video a little bit. We see him in and around Alameda in early morning hours, and it'll be really interesting to look at these exhibits of those
Be in
early
recess about 10 minutes.
morning hours. Okay. I don't know why the court just decided to take a 10-minute recess, but we're taking a 10-minute recess. All right, we're on break. I'm going to answer some questions because I'm not going to have a chance to answer too many questions at the end of the day because at the end of the day, I am going to scoot to Dave Matthews. I will be updating all of y'all over on our members only space. So if you guys haven't gone to lawnerdsunite.com, that is our members only space. You can be members here on YouTube and members over on lawnerdsunite.com. That is where the members only I Have Thoughts podcast is. And that is where I'll be updating some of that stuff this evening. I don't have music for the break because I'm traveling and I have my travel soundboard and I haven't added the music. So if you guys want to check out more of that, the members only podcast, I Have Thoughts, I'm going to have some more of I Have Thoughts up there for you soon. I will, you can do that over at lawnerdsunite.com, and you're not going to want to miss our members only stream this month, especially while we're in the middle of this trial. It's going to be so busy. So with that, we need to swoop, and we're on a 10-minute break. I'm going to answer as many questions. We're just going to speed round. We're going to lightning round questions while we are on this break because I will be able to, boom out when at the end. That I don't know why I said that. That was weird. We will be able to scoot. I will be like out at the end of the stream today. Melissa said, Emily, please wish my MLL Koku, I hope I pronounced that wrong, who is watching a happy birthday. She is absolutely the best. We love watching together. Well, Melissa and Melissa's MIL, happy birthday. Till AM is a fleshy guy and a prolific showerer. That's what we've learned today about Murdaugh. What did Alec Murdaugh tell Blanca about his shirt? He told her that the shirt he was wearing was a Vinnie Vines shirt, and she said, no, it wasn't. If you want to see those Snapchat videos and the timeline I've put together so far, that's over on my Quick Bits channel. So the timeline I've put together and those 2 videos, the Snapchat video with the leaning tree and the video at the kennels, those are in the week 2 summary over on Quick Bits. The ring tossed away under fear, driver's seat. She was over it. She was going to divorce and take it all. It is the ring. We will see if the prosecution ties back together more about the ring being off. Emily, what are your most satisfying and most frustrating objections you've ever made in court? I don't know. It depends on the circumstance. I mean, it's great when you're right, and using the rules of evidence to your advantage is always very satisfying. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Did she mean Vineyard Vines for the shirt? No. She said it was not a Vineyard Vines shirt, and Alec told her that it was. So that was what it was. All of us that live in South Carolina at times in the summer are prolific showers. Yeah, that's same. I mean, humidity equals multiple showers a day. Angie asked, will they protect the witnesses? I mean, none of these witnesses are in like a witness protection. It is not easy to be a witness in a case. If witnesses need help, they always need to call there's normally a case agent they can talk to, but the witnesses aren't in witness protection or anything like that. Question, who teaches judges how to judge after they're appointed? There's judge school. They always seem put together in a job that clearly takes decorum. Most judges are promoted to the bench because they have that skill. But also there are judge colleges, and also judges are lawyers and they've been in the courtroom quite a lot. So they learn when they've been in the courtroom quite a lot, the judicial temperament and demeanor that they want to have. And that's a big deal. I wonder if Murdaugh showered / changed the bloody clothes at the little house we found out about today from the housekeeper. It seemed to me from the testimony, and I again need to go back and watch it because when I'm streaming, sometimes I don't absorb everything I otherwise would, that the little house was set up after the murders when he stopped staying at Moselle. But I need to go back and look at the timing. Gab Liz, Emily, Blanca said in minute 30 that Sled asked about the clothes only recently, but then in minute 18 on redirect, she said maybe 4 days after the murder. Any strategy not to call it out, Lawnard? Check me. I need to go back and listen to her testimony again, but I think they were different things that they were asking about and showing her the video, because some of those videos came back later. Emily, if you love donuts, you must try Krispy Kreme. I do love donuts. I have not tried Krispy Kreme. I have not tried Krispy Kreme. So let's keep going. So Paul would have wanted to go with Alec that night. I don't know. Annette R. said, Emily, based on evidence on court TV, Alec Murdaugh is in a t-shirt with a pocket. Why is the evidence in court a plain white Hanes t-shirt? I would need to go look at, and let's go look at that together because this is a very good question and the court is still on break. So give me one moment to pull that up and see what we see here, because the t-shirt that matters is the t-shirt in the photos, the night in the police video. That's what I'm most curious about. So I'm going to go through these real quick. And again, these are on courttv.com. So this is the shirt when he's interviewing with police. That shirt clearly has a pocket on it. I need to see the shirt that was tested by police, because when they were doing the blood, not the blood spatter, I don't think the blood spatter is going to come in. When they were doing the GSR, I don't remember them saying that it had a pocket. They said it was a Hanes beefy tee, but I don't remember when they were doing the testing whether that shirt had a pocket, because I don't think the tested white shirt had a pocket. So I'm going to need to go back to it, because if they said plain shirt, this has a logo on it, they would never describe this as a plain shirt. This is not the same shirt. So I thought they were going with a plain shirt, but the shirt in evidence, we will have to look to see if it has a pocket or not, because if it didn't, and the shirt he is wearing in the police video is different, then it indicates that he could have changed shirt, but I don't know about that. So I'm going to have to see the shirt that they tested and we should have videos of the shirts that were tested for GSR. So let me go this way because it'll be faster. So I will take a look real quick, because the shirt that he was trying to say was a Vineyard Vines shirt, I think is the blue shirt from these are all the pictures of the rain jacket, is the blue shirt. Let's see. That's the inside of the jacket. Is the blue shirt with the, or the short sleeve blue shirt in the tree video. So I don't think we have any photos of the shirt that they tested for GSR that smelled like detergent. I don't think we have any of those photos. So I'll have to go look through this again because I don't see it. So I will need to go look back through the GSR shirts to see. What else? So I will need to go look through the GSR shirts and see. But it clearly, the shirt that police have that they tested for GSR smells clean, and the shirt that he was wearing in the tree video is not the shirt that they found. So we will have to see. We will have to see those. But I think it's more likely that he changed the blue shirt, the khaki pants, and the leather shoes, and those are missing. So, Lost Soul said, sole owner of my engineering company, responsible for all business decisions, men I do business with still ignore my presence and underestimate me. It is a constant source of frustration for many. La Infante said, Dick stated cross of Blanca with he, Alec, worshipped M, and I think we mean Maggie, not M, his mother, because he also called his mother M, but then found out that M's main complaint about him is he wouldn't give her 10 minutes of his time. That's a very fair point. Is it not weird that A was, quote, terrified for his safety because of threats, yet he would nonchalantly leave at night often, but not to his parents' house? Or at least he took calls at night. Pride goeth before the fall, Miss Emily. Eat the donut. You'll never be the same. I don't know about that. Now I'm kind of like, I've never had a Krispy Kreme. Try me. Maybe we will add it to something we'll do when we celebrate 700K on the channel, because I'm being told that we just binged at 690 by the Lawnards in the chat, so thank you. Laura said, AM expected the carrier who is the caregiver who is hard of hearing at his mother's house. That's why he called Miss Shelley to see if it was her instead. He thought the other caregiver would not hear him. I mean, that's very, very possible. Possibly they know if when A had available signal. They could definitely see that. Detailed billing is still available online if you look at your account. Let's see. Question, didn't Blanca get the car from the police? Wouldn't they have found the ring if they'd processed it? I would think so. I thought the exact same thing. I would think so. Same tee he was wearing, but has a logo, so maybe with the shirts in the closet that Blanca said fell, maybe. And maybe grabbed that quickly. The logo tees were stacked up. Maybe grabbed that quickly when he changed and showered. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to see what the state argues. You should do a short live tonight at the concert. I will share some behind the scenes over on Lawnards Unite with the group, because I can share some little videos over there. I don't always share Instagram exactly where I'm at when I'm at, because the internet sometimes internet's questioned. Didn't Blanca get the car? Oh, yes, we just did this. Yes, and yes, and yes. We're speed running. Let me just make sure I have audio on so I can hear when court comes back. What are the guidelines for what needs to be shared with the defense prior to trial? All. Would they know what Blanca and Belinda were going to say? Yes, they would. All. Have we heard Creighton today? I don't think so. I think we've been Creighton free today. Do we think Special Agent Wilde and Special Agent Horny are hooking up? I hope so. Well, based on the last names, they should hyphenate. You know, we'll just start shipping people because their last names are funny. Kristen said, still don't think he pulled the trigger, but had full knowledge what was going on. State dropped the ball on the correct charges against Alec. I still have questions. Michelle said, didn't they have an extender? We heard from the Verizon expert that the extender will show on the records, but we've heard nothing further about it at all. Question, as a trial attorney, do you strategize what you leave the jury to think on over the weekend? I do. Or is it not that easy to time? It just depends on the case and it depends on the witnesses. It just depends. Emily, t-shirt he wore in the police interview is the same as the one in evidence. Perfect. Why did no one look at Buster? He seems sus. He has an alibi and we knew where he was during that time. When do you think we could get a verdict? Robert Campbell, until we are at the end of the case, I cannot tell you. I think it will be after the case closes. Isn't that helpful? The FBI guy only proved that the first 911 call was made from Alex's phone. He did. His evidence did not state it was made from a moving car. It did not. The tower evidence and the car evidence are both nothing burgers. They definitely are just not a lot. It's possible it was at Moselle and it was hitting at different sides of Moselle, which can also mean that it was coming into Moselle. Everybody says hi, Chris. The Lawner chat says hello. She says, Chris says hello. With this much explanation beforehand, even Alec looks like he wants to know if he was in the car. I mean, right? Why doesn't the defense object to this testimony? Because it is relevant and appropriate testimony. There's really nothing to object to with regard to the FBI testimony. The issue is you need GPS data with the cell phone tower pics to really hammer it home. Location data alone isn't as strong. Absolutely agree. And we know there was some data overwrite on Maggie's phone. So it was kind of annoying to see that we didn't have much location data from Maggie's phone after 7:50 p.m. It just fucking sucks that there isn't. It just fucking sucks that there isn't. Because I want to know too. Matthew said, thanks for creating a community focused on facts, not fuckery. You're awesome. You're welcome. I mean, and when it is fuckery, we just call it fuckery. We're just like, okay, we're speculating. This is fuckery. But we make sure that we're clear on which is which. Hunter said, Emily, I'm on the president's list for the second time in paralegal school. Congratulations. As an ADHDer, school has always been hard. Thank you for making law make sense. You're welcome and congratulations. Congratulations. Emily, I think Dick sounds like Elmer Fudd. Great. Congratulations on the 690K Bing. Thank you. We binged. Should we play the We Binged? Law nerds, should we play? Didn't SLED check for blood in the shower drain? It seems that SLED glanced at the showers. They did not check for blood. They did not test for blood. They did not do the things. But we don't have good time. We don't have good timing on, because I don't remember when SLED perused around the house vis-a-vis when Blanca was there. Okay, we binged. For those of you that are new, I have a sub counter in my office in my normal streaming setup, and when it clicks over, it actually makes a sound and flashes the lights, and that is what it means to bing. Oh, it binged! Move your head! Ah! SLED was only glancing around the house for guns. That's what it seemed like to me. And it was one SLED agent glancing around the house for guns, kind of peeking under the beds, with Alex's brother behind her watching what they were doing. SLED did not search that house much or well. If you are lucky, Krispy Kremes makes fresh in the morning, fantastic warm. I know there were locations in Los Angeles where the Krispy Kremes are fresh all day. They've got the little like conveyor belt things. But when I was doing, so our hometown has fairs, as most hometowns do. And we used to work a booth. Was it for band that we did donuts? I think it was band we did donuts. Was it Girl Scouts? And we used to make donuts fresh. It was always a lot of fun to make fresh donuts for the fundraising booth because those were delicious. What causes a phone to use a different frequency? Nobody has asked this witness. I'd sure like to know. I have big questions about Alex's night capers. Yeah, he was very active on his phone in the middle of the night. I don't know what we'll get from there. The clothes were collected per Wilson in the bag. The clothes were collected in the bag. I don't know how much SLED was watching him change. EDB, Krispy Kreme on me. Plain one first. Well, thank you very much. Where is Columbo when you need him? Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy has nuts. Mounds don't. Hiding weapons, I mean, I don't know. And we're waiting. We didn't get much about the cell phone data. I was very interesting. Find you a voodoo donut. Voodoo donuts are great. Agreed. Any tower info on the unknown number he called Chris from? I don't think they have the unknown number for Alec for anything. I just ran into you because of this trial, and girl, you were smart. Congrats. Well, thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate it. I mean, at this point, I've been a lawyer for 17 years, which just makes me feel old to say out loud, but I was a criminal trial attorney, so this is in my wheelhouse. Trial is trial. Criminal trials are a bit different. So, you know, I've also worked in civil, not nearly as much as I worked in criminal, but I've also worked for judges. I've had a long and varied career. Question, is Buster still on the witness list? Everyone is still on the witness list until they're called as a witness, and even then they're still on a witness list to be recalled. So could Buster be called in the defense's case? Maybe. A meter is 3.3 feet, about a yard. I still don't know how long a yard is because I just can't visualize it. Stephanie asking the real questions. What time did Blanca leave Moselle? No one asked. No one asked that question. So I have no idea. None. None of the ideas. None. Can the jury request demonstratives or summaries? Not really. The attorneys need to be aware of that and present them. That's their job. Natalie, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that the prosecution drags stuff out. This was a lot of foundation for not a ton of information, and I don't know what the prosecution is going to argue from this. So with every little piece of evidence, you have to think of the attorneys building a puzzle that they are going to get to argue to the jury, and they need all those little puzzle pieces to argue it to the jury later. But what did they need from this testimony that they are going to argue later? Kiki said, but Five Daughters donuts. Five Daughters donuts are good, and they're mostly cronuts. They do have some donuts, but lots and lots of cronuts, and they are good. But what does the prosecution need from that testimony? We know where Paul was going. We have the location data and the time data on the Snapchat video with the tree. We know he's at the kennel. This is more that proves he was at the kennel. Is it to prove that there was cell reception at Moselle? I just don't know. I just don't. I'll be really interested to see what they decide. What happened to the burner phone? Your guess is as good as mine. Did GIS data plotting before I retired, not being able to see those map plots is driving me insane. Same, K. McD. I wanted to be able to see them too. We'll get to see them later. Why didn't they just let the defense present this evidence? Probably because it would make it look like the prosecution's hiding something. I don't know what they're going to want to argue from it. All right, the judge is coming back into the courtroom, and we are back.
May now be seated.
My iPad is trying to connect.
They bring the jury.
Bring the jury. I'm going to switch feeds once I have access to my iPad again. It's trying to do things. It's okay. My iPad is mad at me. All right. Once we bring the jury, I will try to switch feeds in a minute, but I can't do it just yet. No one asked Blanca what time she left on the night of the murder. No. No one asked. No one asked at all, which was so frustrating. I think, and again, I've said it multiple times, that the prosecution's too close to this case. And the reason I say the prosecution's too close to this case is because it feels to me, is my opinion, that they forget what the jury doesn't know, because they all know it really well. Conclusion is the phone could have been there or not. Yes, Amanda, that's the conclusion. Which means the defense has to go, or the jury has to go with, okay, it's there then. Dominique asked, which side does he work for? So when we have criminal cases, the law enforcement witnesses generally are hired by the prosecution to bring in the evidence, but they don't really, or they shouldn't, work for them. Their job is to follow the evidence.
All right, thank you.
And try to determine what happened, not try to determine an outcome. In civil cases, you're absolutely trying to determine an outcome, different than criminal cases.
Mr. Barber.
Good afternoon, Agent Wilde.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't think I'll have many questions. This
Good.
won't take long at all.
Great.
We were looking at a lot of maps, and they had a lot of timestamps, and I think they were referred to as pings. sometimes.
They're not payments.
I'm
So,
They're-
what are they?
They're activations on the record, so
I'm
whether
so
they
confused
be,
about Maggie's pajamas,
incoming
too.
or outgoing phone calls, or those RTT activations, which are slightly different, or the other things with Paul's phone, those are like the iPhone location data records.
But we're looking at calls, text messages. Would a text message always make one of those timestamps?
Just
Now,
Jill's
so on
not to say.
Verizon, which all the phones in this case were, with Verizon, we're not going to get
get that.
call detail record. We're not going to get location data with the text messages, just the way they're designed.
Okay. And I just wanted to be clear when we said that there weren't any more calls coming into Maggie Murdaugh after 7, that there were some text messages, but if there were, they wouldn't show up.
Correct. They wouldn't show up in her call detail records with cell tower information.
What would it look like on these maps if a call, well, let me ask this, do calls hand off between towers while they're still going on?
They
Get
do.
to that in a minute.
And what would that look like on these maps?
So it would look the same way it looks now. So again, when the call, before the call's even set up, so if my phone was on in this room right now, my phone is constantly scanning the environment. It's trying to find the tower and sector with the strongest signal. Okay, it's very much like sitting at the airport trying to find the best Wi-Fi to connect to while you're waiting.
Don't
on your
connect to
flight.
Wi-Fi at the
So
airport.
what
Are you
happens
crazy?
when a call hands off between
Danger.
between towers during a call is the records look like they look. It's still going to show the initial tower and sector that the phone saw as the best tower and sector at the time the call occurred. And then after that, let's say the call is an hour long and I drive from here to Columbia, I'm going to hand off tower to tower to tower, but on Verizon, I'm not going to see that handoff in the records.
Right, and that I guess was my question, is you're just going to see that first tower, so if you're
Smiling,
handed
that's-
off like tower 1 to 2 to
That's fair.
3,
They didn't ever
you're not going to
introduce
see on the same
phone
calls
records.
hits on towers 2 and 3 on this map.
Correct, you're only going to see the initial.
I do have a couple codes for NordVPN.
And do the
I
coverage
just don't
areas
remember them at the moment.
intentionally overlap to some degree to allow for handoffs?
I should have
Yes.
planned that better. Should have planned that better.
And we saw GPS data for Paul Murdaugh's phone.
Yes,
Did you have any GPS data for Maggie Murdaugh's phone?
I did not. There was nothing in the location database for the time period that was in question.
Do you know why that was?
It's either something Paul was running on his phone that generated it, or a lack of something that Maggie wasn't running on her phone that did not generate it. I really
Snapchat.
don't know the answer to that.
I mean, so the answer would be that you don't know.
I don't know. Yes, sir.
Snapchat. It's because Paul was running
And what about
Snapchat.
Al Murdaugh's phone?
There was nothing during the time period.
So you mentioned that you've testified as an expert in, I think, over 100 cases?
Yes, sir.
And some of those other cases, were you able to show phones moving together?
Sometimes we are, yes.
Were you able to do that in this case?
I did not do that in this case.
When you were doing the drive around to create that sort of coverage map, did you go onto the Moselle property?
I did.
Was that with the consent of Alec Murdaugh?
Yes, I believe so.
We also heard that Maggie had a lot of her location services turned off in the settings on her phone, like,
Could we pull up
100 years ago.
slide 35?
so we did hear from that. And Blanca did say that it was in her phone,
Can you see
but
the screen?
I can.
And I think the previous testimony was that this 10:06:31 call
but we
was
didn't get the
911
time
call?
in evidence. We got information
I
around
just want to
it.
ask about that timestamp because we heard from someone from the FBI yesterday, the 911 call was actually placed at 10:06 and 18 seconds. So what would account for the 13 seconds difference between the two?
I guess it depends on the records you were looking at. There might be a slight offset between the records the other person was looking at and the records I was looking at.
And the 911 call center, of course, would have a timestamp on incoming calls.
Correct.
Have you ever seen cases where there's a few seconds difference between those timestamps and this kind of records and what the 911 center might have?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's a difference between when you press the green button, and it usually takes a couple of seconds to connect on the other side.
That's fair.
And could we, on the Elmo go to slide 56. And the reason I would like to do this on an Elmo.
I think they couldn't
is I
test it
think that
because
the
they didn't
presentation
have
is cutting off the bottom
Maggie's
of the screen.
GPS
was.
location.
And this, can we see the top so we can kind of get context for what this is?
So we'll see.
Just, yeah, slide it down so that the top is visible. So this was Alec Murdaugh information, and this was on June 15, 2021, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you know that was a Tuesday?
I don't.
Can we scroll in so we can see the bottom? It says that activity after 2:33 p.m. indicates travel to Somerville. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any data after that? Is that the end of the data that you have regarding Alec Murdaugh?
Is that the last slide?
You have
Okay.
the slide. So this is slide 56 that we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, there was other data after that.
And do you have location data for Alec Murdaugh after June 15?
I think so. I think
In this report?
Not in this report.
So in this report, I'm sorry, because that's,
Yep.
what we're looking at here.
Yes, sir.
Because I understand, of course, you have cell phone records. He kept using the cell phone, obviously, after the 15.
He's like,
Yes,
I have a
he
lot
did.
of shit.
But for what's being presented to the jury, the last entry is, I'll represent, Tuesday, June 15, is the end of what you have.
Yes, it is.
And he's going to Somerville.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And finally,
I see
last 2 or
Somerville
3 slides,
representing
we
in the
don't need to
chat.
show them.
It sounds lovely.
There was some information for some other people, a CB Rowe, a Marty Cook.
Yes, sir.
Why were you looking at information for them?
I was requested to look at the information for them for the night of the incident.
Thank you for
Were you
asking,
requested to ever
counsel.
look at information for an Eddie Smith or a Spencer Roberts?
Eddie Smith sounds familiar, but I'm not sure about Spencer Roberts.
Did you look at information regarding Eddie Smith?
And if you did, please tell us everything immediately. And if you did,
Yes,
why
Do
didn't
you
the
have that
prosecution
information
ask?
with you?
I do not.
You do not have the information?
I don't have it with me, no.
Why? Why wouldn't the prosecution have brought this up? Eddie Smith
Beg
is
the
on their
court's
witness list. Yeah, I beg the court's indulgence. Counsel, ask everything. Why wouldn't the prosecution bring that up? I don't know who Spencer Robert is, but I know exactly who Eddie Smith is. And if he looked at Eddie Smith's cell phone data and the prosecution asked, did you look at CB Rowe and did you look at Marty Cook? And were they anywhere near this? No. Well, did you look at Eddie Smith? Yes. Do you have that information with you? No. But the defense is going to mention it all. Thank you, defense. This, by the way, is my favorite of the defense attorneys.
No further questions, Your Honor.
What?
By the state.
Briefly.
Y'all have gotten us
I'm gonna
curious and
ask,
left us
Mr.
fucking
Mallory,
hanging today.
Whether you've been able to pinpoint 2 phones together in other cases, correct?
Yes.
Generally speaking, what
No
kind of data
further
are you
questions.
using when you
The fuck?
try to have been able to pinpoint 2 phones together at the same time?
I mean, first of all, the 2 phones have to have activity around the same time. So we'd have to have calls at 9 o'clock on one phone and calls at 8:58, 9 o'clock on the next phone. That's the first thing we'd have to do. Second thing is it'd have to be indication the phones are traveling together or stationary at the same place at the same time.
Okay. And after 7:50 PM, was there any Verizon location tower information provided by Verizon?
There was not on Maggie Murdaugh's phone. There was not.
So you wouldn't be able to provide any opinion as to whether her phone was near any other phone in the world after 7:50 PM, correct?
That's correct, because there's no data to compare it against.
Okay. That's perfect, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think we're done.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, and we are
Thank you, sir.
done. What time is it? 4:15. We're going to get into another witness.
Your next witness.
Cousin Eddie, just call Cousin Eddie.
Nathan Tuten.
Nathan who? I didn't hear the end. I think he said Tuten, which I think is one of Paul's friends. No, we're not done. We got about 45 minutes left today. Why did no one ask about Eddie's fucking phone? The FBI looked at it and they didn't ask. Whoa! They're going to leave that hanging out there.
Nathan Tuten, Tuten.
That's not how I heard that in my head. You guys, I know it's
Good afternoon. How
Tuten.
you doing?
We've
Good,
got a
how about
lot
you?
of names in this trial.
Doing well. Why don't you tell this jury a little bit about yourself?
I know.
Where you grew
I see
up,
all the
where you
root and
went to
tootin'
school.
already coming in.
Start there.
I'm from Hampton, South Carolina. I graduated from Wade Hampton High School in 2018. I have a degree in criminal justice from University of South Carolina and graduated in 21.
How many Gamecocks
Nathan,
games have you been
it's
to,
hard
Nathan?
to pick up you on the mic, so if you would, I know it's, pull it as close as you can and just try to speak into it. So
Counsel, just stay there
we
at
can
the
all hear
podium
you.
and
Okay,
stop
so I think you
wandering.
said you graduated high school 2018. You got a degree from where?
University of South Carolina,
And what field was it in?
criminal justice.
Okay.
I know,
And
we've
what
got a
year did you
poot and a
graduate,
toot, and I know.
USC?
21.
Chad, I see you, I get
And
it.
what do you currently do for a living?
Law enforcement officer,
Okay, with what organization?
Walterboro Police Department.
All right. And describe your job responsibilities. What do you do as a Walterboro police officer?
I enforce the laws of the state and serve and protect.
You work in road patrol right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He seems nervous about being there. We've got
All right.
Wilde,
Nathan,
Gunn,
growing up in this
Tuten,
area,
Horny.
were you childhood friends with Paul Murdaugh?
And
That's correct.
he's here because he's friends with Paul,
When's
I
the first
think.
time you
Not because
met
he's a cop.
Paul?
Lifelong friends, very young age.
Growing up in Hampton, knew him as a kid.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about Paul. What do you remember about him? Tell us the kind of guy he was.
Paul was the definition of a good person and a good friend. He's very loyal, salt of the earth kind of guy, and would do anything for you at any given moment, no matter the time.
What were kind of things that you all like to do together?
We like to hunt, fish, really just hang out with friends.
Was Paul the kind of friend that you'd kind of call a reliable friend?
Absolutely.
All right. Was he the kind of kid that would be there for you if you needed help with anything?
Absolutely.
It's so awkward with Paul being the victim in the murder case
Did you
and
spend
with
a
the
lot
boat
of time
case.
together
It's
with
just,
Paul through the years?
I did,
it's a
yes, sir.
juxtaposition here.
Did Paul have a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Did he like to use his cell phone?
Yes, sir.
How would you describe it?
He was on his phone all the time.
In addition to being on his phone all the time, was he the kind of guy that if you needed something or reached out to him, he was going to respond back to you?
That's correct.
Was he going to call you back if you called him if he missed the phone call?
Yes.
And would you expect him to pick up if you called him?
Yes,
We've already established this with like 3 other
All right.
witnesses,
Did you
though.
get to know Maggie also?
I did.
All right, tell us a little bit about her.
Maggie was probably one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met in my life.
I don't know what this witness
always
has
looked out
yet.
for Paul's friends and was a second mom to me.
And having spent a lot of time with Paul, did you also spend a lot of time with Maggie?
That's correct.
And then did you also get to know Alex?
I did.
Dad. Okay. And is Alex here today?
Yes, she is.
Can you tell me where he is?
He's sitting at that table wearing a boot jacket.
And did you get to know him very well
I did.
through the years?
Counsel?
Did you know the family before they moved their primary residence out to what we call Mazzell? Did you know them before then?
I did.
Okay. Were you there when they moved or obtained Mazzell and started using that as a residence?
I was.
When Mazzell was first constructed, how many entrances and exits were there?
Just one.
And which one was that?
That was the one by the cabin, or one that leads to the sheds.
Okay. And the sheds, is that the dog kennels in the hangar area?
That's correct.
And the cabin, I think you referred to, is there a cabin on the at the front of that entrance?
That's correct.
Okay.
This has all
And
been well
who
established.
put the mailbox in there?
I believe Miss Maggie.
And tell us about that cabin. Tell us where it's situated and why you know so much about it.
Do you live there?
My freshman year of college, Paul and I actually lived together at the cabin.
So it's like a small house, basically?
That's correct.
And And where is it situated in regards to the hangar area?
And
I'm a little bit closer to the highway,
How many feet or how far away?
100 yards maybe.
And so you lived there, I think you said for the summer,
It's just a semester.
a semester? All right, how would you describe yours and Paul's friendship? How often would you guys communicate a day?
Just about every day. Every other day.
Phone calls
That's correct.
and texts?
Primarily phone calls.
And later in life, did Paul go to school?
He did.
Where did he go?
USC,
And that's located where?
Columbia.
And did you see him whenever he would come back into town?
I would.
Would he come back frequently
No, sir.
at the college level?
Oh.
At the college years?
No, sir.
oh,
When
Okay.
would you see him? Would you see him in the summers when school was out?
Good bit.
All right.
That
And I
makes
think you
sense.
mentioned before y'all did a lot of fishing and a lot of hunting. Are you familiar with firearms in general?
I would say so.
but it's summer,
Did
so
did
even if
Paul
Paul
have
doesn't
any
normally come back
guns
to
that he
Bozell during
favored?
college
Ones that he
time,
kept
it's
on him
summer.
and kept with him most of the time.
He did.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about.
And if it's summer, it
however
makes
you wanna
sense that he's
describe
back
this
and
to me.
around.
The two
Bozell.
guns that were with us most of the time was a black 300 blackout and a camouflage 12 gauge Super Black Eagle 3.
And the Black 300 Blackout, what was that firearm used for primarily?
Anything.
Did you use it for hunting?
I did.
Okay. What would you hunt with that gun?
Anything.
Did it have the scope? I think you said there's a scope on the top or some
Counsel,
sort of
he is so over
sight.
it.
How would you describe that?
As thermal scope.
Meaning you could see heat?
That's correct.
Okay. And describe the Benelli shotgun that you just mentioned also. What did it look like, and how did you know it was Paul's?
It had a very distinct digital camouflage pattern, and he had a gun strap that he's used since I've known him. And that's what stayed on that shotgun.
Do you know the differences between, so we hear, Benelli Super Black Eagle models, and then I think we've heard 3 and 2 and 1. Do you know the differences between the various models?
I do.
Okay. So when you look at it, they have distinctive features on them that would tell you whether it's a 3 or a 2 or a 1?
Very subtle differences, but yes.
But you feel comfortable that you know the difference?
Not a hostile witness at all, just an
Yes, sir. Sorry.
just an unenthusiastic witness who really doesn't want to be there, but not hostile. A hostile witness is, this is not hostile. Hostile also is a legal term of art, not a,
As states
he just doesn't want to be there. He just doesn't want to be there. That's not uncommon. Oh my God, we know about the guns. What the fuck is the point? Okay.
First witness.
This is like the fourth
Hey,
witness,
so I'm
fifth
handing
witness
you
that's
what's been
identified
marked
this
and
gun.
entered into evidence as States Exhibit 88. You feel comfortable taking this for a second and now tell me if you know what it is?
I do.
Okay. There you go. Be aware of the muzzle.
Counsel, don't try to look like you know what you're doing with the guns
This is
now.
Paul's rifle.
And you know that because you've used this a bunch of times?
That's correct.
That's the rifle Paul used, even though it was bought for Buster. But okay.
Also now show you what's...
Tinsley wasn't hostile
Entered
either.
into
I'll,
evidence as
I'll
states
explain the
exhibit
legal
number
term of
4.
art hostile witness when we're done with this. Tinsley had attitude, but he wasn't a hostile witness. We'll talk about what hostile actually means. It doesn't mean just angry, frustrated, sassy. It's a term of art. So we'll get there.
This is States Exhibit 4. You feel comfortable taking a look at this for me for a second and let me know if you know which firearm this is?
I do.
Counsel, why do you need this witness to identify that these are Paul's guns again and again and again? We've done it.
This is Paul's shotgun.
How do you know?
Same camo
I've used
pattern.
it several times, and distinct camouflage pattern along with Paul's gun strap.
This strap in particular is Paul's.
That's correct.
How do you know this is a Model 3 Benelli Super Black Eagle?
Well, would you like me to explain?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So there are a few subtle differences. One being the
Great.
forearm grip. The Super Black Eagle 3 has a
Can we
slight
move the camera over
flare
a little
or
so we can
increase
get
in
the whole
curve.
QVC moment of
Another
him
difference
explaining
would
this
be
gun to the jury?
The trigger magazine port has an indention that allows you to insert shot shells easier.
Chat,
The
wake
Super
me up
Black
when
Eagle 2
something
and
happens
previous
that I
models
need to
don't
know
have
about.
that. Another difference would be the button that releases the bolt, which makes the weapon operable. The previous models, being the original and number 2, are circular, whereas this one is more rectangular.
Okay.
And the easiest way to tell the difference is they're labeled 2 and 3.
Thanks for moving the
Thank
camera
you.
over. Appreciate it. I can also hear the jury's eyes rolling from here.
Show you now what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 91.
We have established these guns forever. I just don't know why it matters anymore. Counsel, this is not the way to end a Friday,
Comfortable.
but maybe it
Hold
is.
on this
Just
gun
end
for a
it with
second.
a
I'm gonna
leave
have to
Blanca being the
recognize what
most
it is.
important witness today and ride out the rest of your time. I don't know. But I don't know. EDB, did you hear Cousin Eddie's attorney at lunch
You recognize
saying
what
he
this
would
gun
not be
is?
testifying?
I
She said he has
recognize that
nothing of
as
substance to offer in the
Murdaugh
case. I did
shotgun.
not hear that.
What model is this?
Because his
Super
attorney's
Black
been
Eagle
saying
2.
he would testify,
And you
so
know
we'll
it's a two
see.
because of the other features you just mentioned and pointed out for the jury?
That's correct.
Would you do that again? Tell us why you know that's a 2.
Like I mentioned earlier, the slight flare.
I don't think
on
they
the
wanna
3.
call Eddie today.
This is straighter, and more narrow.
Is this country
Does
QVC?
not have the
Yes.
indention for the
Court QVC.
magazine port, and the button is circular.
And you said it was Buster's shotgun. How do you know that?
The Mojo sticker on the barrel.
The sticker at the top of the barrel there?
That's correct.
Familiar with it, Mojo.
That's correct.
Alex,
I might Uber Eats
he
myself
favored
something
the
to
shotgun?
drink. I'm
He
just.
did.
What was one that he favored?
That was a Super Black Eagle original black shotgun.
Do you have any ice?
Are you familiar, did Paul have a 300 blackout rifle prior to the black one you just identified?
That's correct.
All right, were
Never
you
mind.
familiar with what happened to that firearm, the original one?
Yes.
I am.
All right, tell us the story.
It was a party.
Tell
and
us
he
the
had-
story.
There's a black 300 blackout and a tan 300 blackout. He had
know.
the tan one, and it got stolen from a party one night.
Speak up.
It was stolen from a party one night.
You know what year that was, approximate year?
I'd say early 2018.
I have.
And that
drinks.
was the our firearm that was stolen was what color
Thanks to
again?
Amy.
A tan.
Tan.
Amy brought me alcohol. I've got we're
All
gonna
right,
just
at
do
what
some
point in
black
the Mazzell
cherry
property
Jim
was
Beam.
the, what year, approximate year was the
Thanks,
second
Amy.
entrance
You've saved me.
Created? That one with the brick.
We're just gonna go with it straight at the moment
brickwork.
I'm not sure.
because it is.
It was a few years though
Black
after
cherry.
they'd owned the property, the family had owned the property.
Thanks.
That's correct.
Got-
Was it common to use either entrance by the family to leave and enter the property?
could need another one.
Yes and no.
All right, we'll explain.
Paul and I would use, and friends would use the entrance by the sheds more, whereas
That's
Alec and Maggie would
delightful.
use the main gate entrance more.
That's delightful.
If you all, and let me ask you, what were the, before we get to my next question, what, the hangar area with the
Cheers,
kennels, are you
Leonards.
familiar with it?
That's correct.
Could you describe to the jury just a very basic layout of that area?
It was kennels as you're riding into the driveway. The kennels would be on your left. The shed or hangar.
Yes, we've
would
gone
be
whiskey and
directly
teacup today.
on your right.
I mean, I guess it's a coffee
There
mug,
was
but- and it's
another
also bourbon, but whatever.
Shed that they had built in
Same,
front of the
same.
hangar, and there was a skinning shed for animals.
Did anyone
out
ever search the skin and
back to the right.
shed?
And would you spend a lot of
'Cause
time down
nobody
at
said.
the hangar area and kennel area?
We would.
Why would y'all hang out there? Why was that the kind of the collection place?
It's just a central location where everything was located.
Tools?
Correct.
And fire, farm equipment?
Correct.
If you all were spending time down at the kennels and someone was leaving the house, would it be common for them that someone, whether it's, Alex or Maggie, to stop by on their way out, leaving the property?
Yes, sir.
That would be what would normally happen?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to play what's been marked as.
How many people do you need to identify? How many
I'm
people
gonna
do you
show
need to
what's
identify the
been
voices?
not marked, but entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 297.
I don't know. I don't know how many people you need to
Little screen
identify
there,
this.
if you
It's been
wouldn't mind,
100.
Watching that for me and listening.
Oh yeah, y'all, I'm focused. I'm focused on getting to a concert. I am ready.
Thank you for the computer.
Oh no, I'm whining. I'm bored. It's annoying. It's cumulative. It's so cumulative. There is no need for this witness. He doesn't want to be there. His friend has been killed. It's added nothing new. It's a waste of time. This trial is already over time by almost 2 weeks at their estimates, and they are wasting everyone's time.
Quick, Cash.
Hey, you got burgers now!
Hey, Bubba.
It's a guinea.
It's a chicken. Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash. Cash. Quick.
It is. It feels like just a waste of the jury's time.
Did you hear voices on that video that we just played?
I did.
Whose voices did you hear?
Paul Murdaugh's, Megan Murdaugh's, and Elliot Murdaugh's.
Okay.
Could you tell where they were located in that video? Did you get a sense of where that was?
Dog kennels.
Okay. The kennels down at the hangar area?
That's correct.
We heard yelled out a name called Bubba. Are you familiar with Bubba?
I am.
Who's Bubba?
That'd be Paul's dog.
I
And what kind of
object.
dog is he?
We have no
Yellow
photos.
Is
of
he
Bubba.
trained? Well, was he was he a house pet or a pet?
At that time, yeah.
Was he also trained to hunt or be a hunting dog or bird dog?
That's correct.
Did Bubba have a? Well, describe Bubba. How would you describe Bubba?
Why?
Hard-headed.
Why?
Did Bubba have a
hard-headed is
thing
what
where
he
he
said.
liked to chase chickens?
Hard-headed is what he said about
I'd say
Bubba.
so, yeah.
If a chicken got out of the pen, would he chase it?
That's correct.
Have you ever been there when he caught chickens?
He would chase anything.
He'll chase. Did you ever there when he caught birds though that were coming out of that coop?
I mean, he's tried.
This attorney's getting more
Could I
southern as
say
he
I've
talks.
seen him? No.
Were you aware then that Bubba? Were you aware that Bubba would chase those chickens?
Absolutely.
And had you been aware that he killed chickens before by getting
I am.
them?
I think the point of this.
Have you ever had to wrestle anything out of Bubba's mouth or try to catch him when he doesn't want to be caught?
Tried to catch him.
And if he doesn't want to be caught, what's going to happen?
Not catching him.
This is the point of this witness. This is the point of this witness. The point of this witness is
Did you?
Bubba was back in a
begin
pen when
working
police showed up.
at the law firm.
How did
we
Bubba get back
heard
to the
called
pen?
PMPED.
That's the
Correct.
point of that
When
testimony.
did you start working there?
I believe it was February of 2019.
Okay, and what was your job there?
I
Bubba
was
was
a
back
runner.
in the kennel.
Runner for the law firm in general.
That's correct.
Kind of, without specifically not yet talking about the work you did.
Yeah, I'm not here for the
Alex,
Bubba
but what
slander.
kind of work would you do there generally?
Be a courier for court documents to different courthouses and law offices across the state. Assist
But somebody caught
paralegals and
Bubba.
attorneys with really whatever they needed.
Somebody caught Bubba, somebody got the chicken
Help
out of
run
Bubba's
office.
mouth, and somebody got Bubba back into the kennels in under
And you
3
worked
minutes when the
there
murders
from
happened. Because when
2019
police came,
and
Bubba was
when's the
not
last
running
time you
around.
went there?
That's why it matters.
I want to say it was May of 21.
I do need a picture of Bubba,
So May
though.
of 2021. Or
Excuse me, 2022.
2022.
But I love that Bubba was
So
hard-headed.
you
Describe
would have
Bubba
continued to
hard-headed.
work there through the tragic events of June 7th, 2021?
Yes,
That's correct.
Blanca did testify about that.
So you saw the upheaval at the law firm as well, you witnessed that?
That's correct.
Did you see these checks? Don't ask him about checks. If you say the
Nathan,
word checks.
I'm gonna direct your attention to the weekend leading up to June 7th. Could you tell us a little bit about the any communications you would have had with Paul leading up to June 7th? Did you all talk any leading up to it?
To the best of my memory, we spoke that Saturday. I think he called me over the weekend.
Did it seem like a normal conversation?
Yes, sir.
What were y'all talking about?
He was
Sunflowers?
going to Charleston, I believe. I was talking on the way.
Is that the last time you talked to Paul?
That's correct.
How were you made aware of what happened? How'd you find out?
I received a phone call from my mother the night of. Not sure how she knew, but shortly after I received a phone call from one of the law partners that told me.
And they called you because they knew you were close with Paul?
That's correct.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with another friend of mine in Allendale County.
And did you go out there that night?
I did not.
Did you attend the funeral and wake?
I did.
Is that the last time you went to Mazzell?
Yes, sir.
After these events, how did it affect you?
Why?
It was hard
Yeah.
losing a really good friend and a really good person.
After these events, I think you said already, but you continued to work at the law firm?
That's correct.
How was Alex? Was he out of the office for some time leading after this event on June 7th?
That's correct.
Did he eventually start coming back into the office?
Oh,
A little bit.
Did you have an opportunity or an occasion or multiple occasions to do running for Alex?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this would be before the murder?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about what Alex would have you do.
If I need to pick up court documents from different law firms or courthouses, drive them depositions, cash checks, some of the things.
I'm sorry, you said cash checks?
That's correct.
He had you cash checks for him?
That's correct.
Bingo.
All right, well, tell me, where would he send you to cash the checks?
Palmetto State Bank.
That's why he's here.
What were your instructions for
Hard-headed
that?
Bubba and cashing checks.
Cash check.
And what would you do with the money?
Take it back to his office. And
Like cash?
that's correct.
Is it in an envelope, or are you just holding it?
It was in a Palmetto State envelope.
And you would take that envelope of cash, and where would you bring it?
Back to his office.
Okay, and just hand it to him.
That's correct.
How many times did he have you cash checks like that?
This is before,
Very frequently.
this
Very
is when he was in
frequent?
law enforcement.
Many times.
Many times.
Was there ever a time when you cashed that check and there was a room full of, has there ever been a time where you cashed the check, brought it back to Alex's office, and there was someone in his office?
That's correct.
Multiple people, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Huh.
Tell us who those folks were that you would have been there when Alex is sending you to get cash, you're coming back with the cash, and there's someone sitting in his office.
Oh, this is
There
interesting.
was different occasions. One particular occasion was Greg Alexander.
Who's he?
I believe he's the chief of police for the embassy.
What?
Corey Fleming.
Do you know
And-
Corey Fleming?
I do.
And what did he do?
He was an attorney as well.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Alex's best friend.
This got
Okay,
real
who else?
interesting.
And Chris Wilson.
And do you know who Chris Wilson is?
I do.
Who is he?
He's an attorney in Bamberg, I believe.
Did you see him handing cash to the
Alex
chief of
stop
police?
asking you to cash checks? What was the time frame?
I believe it was a few weeks.
Interesting.
Why
did we even fuck around with the guns? Why didn't we just get to
You've been
this?
doing this a lot, and a few weeks before the murder, he doesn't ask you to cash any more checks.
That's correct.
Oh. Why did you bother with the fucking guns? You should have just started with this. This, why didn't we start with
Did you
this?
have an opportunity, or were you assigned to assist, or let me ask you this. Do you know who Jeannie Seconder is?
I am.
And who is she and who was she at the time to you back in 2021 range?
She was my immediate supervisor.
And were you ever...
Because we all awake
after
again.
The events of June 7th, were you assigned and tasked to assist her in her investigation of financial improprieties within the firm?
In some ways, yes.
All right.
I don't know the last time I don't know the last time I got a cashed check. I don't know the last time I grabbed cash, but this. He's bringing back envelopes full of cash while bro's sitting around with the chief of police and his two homies.
All right,
Ready.
and continuing, you were assigned to assist Jeannie, and what kind of things were you doing in that capacity?
We would look through different cases. She would have me get cases from probate court and go through and highlight cleared checks, and if I found a discrepancy, bring it to her.
Did you understand the scope and what you were looking for? Did she kind of involve you in that?
Somewhat.
Did you figure out kind of shortly thereafter what you were looking for, or what the reason was?
I'd say so.
Brielle's like, I'm a
I'm
hunting
going
gun
to
expert.
direct
now.
your
Same.
attention to July of 2021,
I know what muddin means now. I know what a
specifically-
Borelli is.
July 4th, or
Here.
July 4th timeframe. You have that in your brain?
I do.
Did you
Counsel.
did you drive Alex to the airport?
I did.
Tell us about that. Why did you drive him to the airport?
Well, at the time, I was still a runner, and he asked me to give him a lift to the airport.
To go to the
So
Bahamas?
that's what I did.
Where was he going?
I believe he was going to Florida Keys with Maggie's family.
So he's going on vacation to the Keys on July 4th weekend or July 4th timeframe?
That's correct.
And did you in fact drive him to the airport?
That's correct.
Did you have a chance, did he say anything to you on that ride to the airport?
We talked.
Did he tell you anything about the boat case?
He did.
What did he say?
He said that he would like to clear Paul's name,
And do what, and beat the boat case?
beat the book case.
So now with Paul gone, he's talking about he can beat the boat case.
That's correct.
This is a month after the murder?
That's correct.
Thank the court's indulgence.
Counsel. Interesting. He wanted to beat the boat case. And now we're getting into cross.
Yes, sir.
How deep are we getting into cross? Half an hour, maybe? Interesting.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It was very important, Alex, to clear Paul's name
Hey, Jim.
from the accusations in the boating case, wasn't it?
You should know you were his lawyer.
I don't know.
That's what he told you, right?
That's what he said.
Because
but
it
I
calls for speculation.
don't know what he was thinking.
Well, you know that he stood behind Paul
Oh.
all throughout the boating case.
That was
criminal part.
That was
right?
unexpected sass
correct.
for me.
And a lot of
Unexpected sass. He's mad at Jim. Why is he mad
people
at
in
Jim?
the Hampton community turned their backs on Paul, didn't they?
That's correct.
You didn't, did you?
No, sir.
Alex and Maggie didn't, did they?
No, sir.
Your brother didn't, did he?
No, sir.
I like this witness more now.
And are you sure it was July 4th?
He looks real mad.
The week of the 4th. That's correct.
And he
Have
was
you noticed the okay has started
going
more
to
today?
Florida on a vacation and visiting with Maggie's parents, Maggie's sister.
That's what he said.
Brother-in-law. You understood that?
Yes, sir.
Who just called him the Southern Harry Potter in the chat? I saw that. It went by too fast, but I saw
Now,
that.
you're talking about,
I'm here for it.
you went and got cashing some checks with,
It wasn't some.
for
It was
Alex,
lots.
and sometimes you'd come back, give him the cash, and you mentioned that Greg Alexander was in his office one time.
It's easier
Corey
to launder
Fleming
money.
One time, Chris Wilson one time, you remember that?
That's correct.
I mean, what'd you do when you walk in? Just give the envelope to Alec?
Yes, sir.
You sit down and see
It's
what he
easier
did
to
with
launder
the
money when it's
Not at all.
cash.
Are you suggesting that he was giving Greg Alexander any of the money?
No,
I'm not suggesting anything.
the lawyer suggested it, not him. I like him because he's holding his ground. That's why I like him.
Do you know if that's what the Attorney General was trying to suggest by asking you?
I don't know what anybody's thinking.
And
Tonight got spicy. I picked a good time to start drinking.
You've known
Because-
Paul, you knew Paul.
For those of you that haven't been on a whiskey stream
stream
with Emily, welcome.
Correct?
And how old are you?
23.
And
Old
I
enough
think
to
you
be sick of your
described
shit,
Alex
Jim.
and Maggie as kind of your second parents.
That's correct.
And you spent a lot of time at Moselle. You hunted with Paul. And
I don't
Buster,
think this
too,
witness
think.
is hostile. I think he doesn't
That's
want to be a
correct.
part of any of
You
this.
lived there
He's
at
stuck
that
in the
cabin
middle.
you talked about, right there on the edge of Moselle Road, right?
That's correct.
And Paul's go-to guns were 300 Blackout and the 12 gauge Benelli that you identified here in the courtroom, right?
That's correct.
This witness
Now,
doesn't
you
want to
knew
be there
Paul's,
at all. None.
Had originally been given a 300 Blackout for Christmas that got stolen, right?
That's correct.
Did you go to the party with Paul and he had the 300 Blackout in his truck? You go in the party, come back, and it's gone?
Not exactly how it happened.
How did it happen?
Didn't realize it was missing for a few days.
Okay.
Yes, it's pregame for the concert. No, it's not early. We have pit
And
tickets,
Paul
so
would
we have to
never
be there early.
lock his truck, would he?
No, sir.
And he would leave guns in his truck, right?
That's correct.
Also, this trial has broken me.
Did you know that
Here we
that
are.
300 Blackout had been replaced?
I did not.
Okay. When did you learn that?
This trial?
During the trial?
That's correct.
But up until the trial, you never knew that it had been replaced.
No.
But you'd seen Paul use 300 Blackout you identified as his
Back to the
go-to gun.
guns.
Right?
That's correct.
And the 300 Blackout that you identified has a thermal scope, does it not?
That's correct.
Thanks, Chad.
And whose gun did you think got stolen? Paul's or Buster's?
I would assume Paul's.
Were you aware that the 300 Blackout replacement did not have a thermal scope?
If I didn't know about the gun, then no.
So you
I didn't know
whether or
about
not
the
this
gun.
is Buster's
Didn't know
300
about the
Blackout
scope.
sitting here in the courtroom.
That is the gun that I used at Moselle.
Okay.
And we knew that was the gun that Paul liked the best. Because he was friends with Paul.
Now, when Paul would clean his truck out, he would take, well, let me back up. Paul normally keep guns in his truck?
That's correct.
300 Blackout, 12 gauge, anything else?
Sometimes some pistols, but
And there were times when Paul would clean his truck out, and then he would take the guns and leave them in the shed down there by the kennels, right?
that's correct.
And sometimes he would,
I feel this witness's
Forget
whole
that
mood
he
with
left
this
them down
trial,
there,
by the
right?
way.
That's correct.
and he, think you described him as being careless with leaving guns around, is that right?
I'd say so.
Okay. And he'd even left guns in your truck, right?
Correct.
Can you imagine? It's not my life. I can't imagine
Now,
somebody
Paul
just
was a guy who liked to
leaving their
work
guns in my car.
with his hand.
That is not the place for this stream to freeze. I don't know. Sorry, chat. The feed froze, and I apologize.
And
This
outside.
guy's a whole mood with the
Correct.
freezing.
And he loved the Moselle property, is that right?
I'd say so.
And he liked to work the land with equipment and plant for game management, for duck hunting and dove hunting and
Okay.
things like that, right?
No.
Correct.
And to do that, he was, he wasn't always on his phone, right? I mean, he liked to work with his hands. Is that fair to say?
Jim.
Wouldn't say that altogether. Take several breaks while he's working with his hands.
Right.
Jim, he's
And-
on his phone.
And I think you've described it. He would put his phone down, and while he was doing some work, and then he'd forget where it was. He'd lose it. He'd go back and find it later.
That's correct.
The defense is
happens
fighting the
fairly
timeline of the murder.
regularly, doesn't
That's
it?
why he's asking
I'd
that.
say so.
Good question.
And you listen to the video that was played. Do you hear water running in the background?
I do.
I'm not sure.
What kind of work would Paul do down there by the kennels?
But
What do you
Alex
mean?
said he was always on the phone.
mean, would
Agreed,
he-
Chad.
If Bubba or the other dog had messed in their dog run, would he clean it up?
I'd say so.
Okay.
The defense is
And if he
fighting the
did that,
timeline of the
perhaps
murders.
he'd
That's
put
why
his
he's
phone
asking
down
these
while he did that,
questions.
so it wouldn't get wet.
They're good questions.
I would assume so.
They're just kind of lost in the middle.
It's a reasonable thing to do, right?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Yeah, this witness is definitely giving, I don't want to be here, and you're here
Now,
for your 15
you were
minutes of
close
fame.
with Alex, Maggie, Paul, and Buster.
He's the
That's you and your
country
brother
Harry
were, right?
Potter to our
Yes, sir.
spicy Draco,
And
fam.
you were able to observe Alex's relationship with Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
How would you describe it?
I'm here for
I'd say it
it.
was a very loving relationship.
And, okay. And how would you describe Alex's relationship with Maggie?
I would describe it the same.
1 second, Your Honor.
Once again, those questions are highlighting the devastation, but highlighting that Paul wasn't always on his phone is trying to push the timeline.
To your
of the
knowledge,
murders, which is smart.
after the boating accident, did Paul receive threats of any kind?
That's correct.
What kind of threats were you aware of?
Just threats that he would say people would text him, or different social media platforms, but
Right.
didn't really go into very vivid detail or anything.
I'm sorry.
Didn't go into very vivid detail about anything. He just
And his circle of friends got really close, tight after the boating accident, and you and your brother, I mean, he talked to you all frequently, did he not?
That's correct.
Okay. And then he would go to Charleston to visit with friends down there, correct?
That's correct.
He didn't say he'd been
so he didn't
attacked.
feel comfortable, in the Hampton area where he lived because of the boating accident. Is that right?
He stayed away.
Yes, sir.
I can
That's all I
understand
have.
that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, 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 no.
Nathan, you were asked about threats to Paul. Did you ever know that Maggie received any threats?
I was not aware of any, no.
I'm going to ask you, counsel asked you a little bit about the kennel area and asked you if you'd heard water. Are you familiar with how generally the kennels were cleaned?
No!
Concrete pad.
And if you're going to rinse off the kennels, what would you do with the dog bed?
He would put it on top of the dog house
Okay, and why was that?
so it wouldn't get wet.
And then what would you just leave the dog, would the family or if you were cleaning it, leave the dog bed up on the top of the kennel, or are they going to bring it down when the kennel, after a certain point in time?
You wait for it to dry and then bring the bed.
If the family, if you were down there or anyone was down there at the kennel area and it was nighttime, would you turn the lights on?
Yes, sir.
Are there sufficient lights out there to make it a fairly well-lit area if all the lights are on?
I'd say so.
Oh, the freezing stream is killing me. I might have to switch streams with this. It's very, very frustrating. It might be my tech. It is frozen. Sorry, stream.
If
We're almost there.
If you're at the main house and the lights are on down at the kennels, can you see that area from the house?
Yes.
Would it be very visible to you to see that there's lights on down there?
Yes.
Would the fans, are there fans in the kennel area?
There are.
Would the fans be left on generally for the dogs?
Generally.
And
It's hot. That makes sense.
again, if anyone was down there working, would the lights be turned on?
Yes, sir.
Kristen, you're absolutely right. If he was actively cleaning the kennels, it would not have looked the way it looked
No further
when
questions.
police showed up. It's a very good redirect, and it's a very good point, Kristen.
Anything further?
Are we done? Are we done? Are we done? If they're done with this witness, I think we're done for the day, and I think we're done for the week. I think we're out. I think we're almost out, everybody.
My counsel asked you a question about Paul's phone usage. I think he said Paul uses his hands and what he would do with his phone. Do you recall if Paul did have to use his phone, would he put it in any of his pockets?
If he was working outside in that capacity, the pocket he would put it in would be his back pocket.
And that was the common thing he would do almost nearly every time?
That's correct.
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything further?
We're so close. We're so close. We're so close. Jim? Oh, wait. Where?
You're on, thank you.
You may step down.
The witness thought he was done. Did you see him get up and start walking before Jim said nothing further? He is the fuck out. Are we done? Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this day. Please, we'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you 9:30 Monday morning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Week 3. Today was supposed to be the day this case went to the jury. It sure didn't. You know what? I'm going to leave the court feed up just in case the court has anything else to say. And then we're going to answer a few more questions. And then I am going to get ready to skedaddle to a concert because it's concert time. We thank you, Amy, for the black cherry Jim Beam. I've never had it. It's amazing. I'm ready. I'm ready. Today, I might even be that person. It's my 55th concert. I might just wear the band shirt to
Everybody
the
be
concert.
seated, please.
Like a weeb. Oh, the judge is going to... Are you going to yell at them? Yell at them. We're ready to be entertained.
Anything before we adjourn for the weekend?
Your Honor, purely for scheduling purposes, a week from Monday is President's Day. It's a state holiday. Are we going to have court or not?
I do not anticipate having court on President's Day.
I'm sorry.
I do not anticipate having court on President's Day. We also will
Wait, isn't that
adjourn,
Monday?
hopefully no later than 4:30 next Thursday.
Ooh, early day next
Or just for
Thursday.
that day?
Next Thursday,
Next Thursday, but we can
Isn't
be
President's Day
in court on
Monday? No,
Friday.
the following Monday.
yes.
I'm just want to make
Monday
sure.
the 20th. We're still going to be here
and I
Monday the
wondered if
20th?
Attorney General had any more refined position on, I mean, things seem to be moving quickly now.
As I stated yesterday, we're shooting for Wednesday, and we're still on track for that, Your Honor.
All right.
Begin to fly people in next week. So you're going to adjourn at 4:30 on Thursday, but, and not have court the following Monday. That's,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's great information.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
We're in recess.
Woo! Good work, everybody. We made it. It's Friday. We're here. President's Day is the 20th, and that's when they're talking about no court, which means we're still going to be here. The defense has said their case. So for scheduling, the defense has said their case is going to take about a week. The prosecution will be done on Wednesday. So we have at least a week and a half. I know all of us have aged like 94 years since we've started watching this trial, but we've actually started to get into a murder trial right here at the end bit, and I'm very excited about it. So here we are with a murder trial again. This last witness at the beginning, I'm like, if they just called this witness to be like, that's Paul's gun and that's everybody's voices on the video, I was going to lose my mind. And then they were like, oh no, he was bringing back fat stacks of cash to the witness. And then they loosely alluded, and the defense probably should have objected, but they loosely alluded to the fact that the fucking lawyer, that he's bringing back stacks of cash to Alec Murdaugh while he's in his office with the chief of police and his buddies. It was a very interesting insinuation, and I So for those of you who are like, will Emily be streaming the whole trial? I'm invested. It's like the judge is still on the bench, like laughing with folk. I don't know what's happening, but I'm here for it. Today's been wild. So at first I was really like, this is fucking cumulative. And then we got to the end. I was like, oh, this is the flight to the Keys. I wonder if the flight to the Keys is where he then hopped down to the Bahamas. Was he really with his in-laws? Are the in-laws going to testify? Was he with the in-laws? I don't know. But the chief of police in the office with the cash, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So he definitely had he had some of the tea, and we were all like, ooh. Today, Blanca wins the day. We learned quite a lot today. We had stacks of cash. They just disparage Bubba. I mean, Bubba needs to sue for reputational damage. Bubba should be pissed, but it seems that Bubba is hard-headed. Here's the thing that is really coming around to me the more they talk about Bubba the dog. This dog is a hard-headed dog that would run for the hills and was very hard. If he had a chicken, it was very hard to get it away from him. So if Bubba is a hard-headed dog, how was Bubba in the kennels when police arrived? Because that changes the time. That doesn't change the timing, but that gives you a lot of information, right? We know that Alec Murdaugh is up at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. We know that the phones go silent right around 8:49. We know that Paul was in the middle of not just talking to his friend about cash, but also talking to a girl about a movie that they wanted to see. So he's in the middle of two conversations that one would think you would want to finish, actively in conversation. And so when the phone goes silent gives us the time of when the state's going to argue that the murders happened. And so you've got that like 3-minute window. Who caught Bubba and put him back in his kennel if Alec Murdaugh wasn't there? It wasn't Paul, it wasn't Maggie, and it wasn't someone else. And now we know that Paul and Maggie maybe weren't expected to be at Moselle that night. We know for sure that Maggie was heading back to the beach house at Edisto and left it unlocked when she left for the doctor's appointment and expected to go back to Edisto and ended up going back to Moselle. I don't know what that's like. It doesn't happen to me. I don't live in multiple places, but that happened. So today was a very, very interesting day. But the Bubba slander, the chat's not here for it. I know, we're not here for it. He might be a hard-headed dog, but he's still a good boy. All right, so that's my summary. We're going to answer a few questions. I'm going to finish my whiskey in a teacup that's actually bourbon in a coffee mug, and then I'm going to go. Patty Nisbet said, question, if they weren't supposed to be there, only a few people knew they were there. It sounded like very few people knew they were going to be there. And that is very, very interesting. So it's very interesting to me. I don't understand why the defense didn't question Tinsley on the GoFundMe, because Tinsley probably would have just yelled at them. Do you think they backed down because he said he hoped that he would be asked? Tinsley was fucking done with them, and Tinsley would have been like, yes, she was an incredible witness and blah, 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 blah. It would have just opened the door for him to keep talking. And so they wanted Tinsley to talk less, so they shut it down by not asking more questions in cross. And again, the defense made a very big deal out of it to the judge, and the judge was like, no, and the defense is like, all right, fine. They're doing their job. The defense is doing their job. They are defensing. Emily, we need to get shirts made. I survived the Murdaugh trial. Have fun tonight. I'll have fun tonight. I'll think about it. My boyfriend drinks Red Stag and Sprite. It's good. Fantastic. I've got some more Red Stag here. I've never tried it before. Amy brought it to me and I was like, yes, we're going to give it a try. So here we are. Have fun. Be safe. Will do. Will do. Look, I get to go eat, drink, and be merry with my friends. It's always a good night. Can you explain hostile witness, please? I promised I'd get back around to it. Thank you, chat, for keeping me on track, because ADHD plus booze. Here's the thing with a hostile witness. Just like when we talk about malice in defamation, malice doesn't mean like meanness. Hostile witness doesn't mean like, hey, fuck you. Hostile witness means that you're able to treat the witness for a reason as if they are from the opposing side. So a hostile witness for the prosecution means they're able to cross-examine that witness. Every state has a process to go through it. It's generally governed by case law of what you need to do with the witness to be allowed to treat the witness as hostile. Hostile just means you treat them as if they were called by the other side. So when you're the prosecutor, you do direct examination for all of the witnesses until it's the defense's turn, and then you cross-examine the defense witnesses. You wouldn't know that from this trial, because everybody just does everything. The defense is doing what seems like a direct examination. Creighton Waters on a redirect is just cross-examining people. But generally, there are rules and people object. We saw that very much more in Depp v. Heard. So it's allowing you to treat your own witness that you called. So if the prosecution called the witness, it's allowing the prosecution to treat the witness as a defense witness and cross-examine them. And then they can be cross-examined by the defense as well. But there is a process. Depending on the state, it's called different things. The process you go through in California, it's greening based on the case law. And you establish that the witness is not really your witness, so you don't have to do direct examination. But it doesn't mean necessarily that they are hostile. You know, a witness, I've had witnesses where you've gotten them up on the stand and you're like, how are you doing today? And the response is, fuck you, bitch. And you're like, this is going to be delightful. But that alone doesn't establish that they're a hostile witness. You have to go through it and establish whether or not they're a hostile witness. So that is what it is. I object to disparaging the dog. Same, all. Would there be blood and such on or around the dog? I don't know. I don't have bird dogs. I also don't go mudding in trucks. I have no idea. I don't understand why the defense didn't question Tinsley on the GoFundMe. We got to that. I think Tinsley yelled at them enough that they were afraid to get into squabbling with him. I just celebrated 2 years of sobriety, so here's $10 to get a drink on me. You need it after this week. This is the first time I've had a drink during this trial. Congratulations. I know we have lots of sober friends in the chat, which is why we always talk about what we're drinking. Sometimes it's water, sometimes we got to hydrate, and sometimes it is something else. Though, you know, it is what it is. Question, Alec Murdaugh admitting he wants to beat the boat case after the murders gives him further motive regarding Maggie wanting to settle the case before the murders. I think it raises an interesting point for argument because Maggie said, I just want to put it behind us. And we know that socially it had been very hard because of course it had been. So it's very interesting to see. He's like, I'm going to clear Paul's name after the murders. He might have been a loving father husband, but that doesn't mean he wasn't capable of this horrendous crime. That is a very fair point, and they'll argue that. So, we got to this question already. I think it came in twice, or I just forgot. Slightly off topic, in a jailhouse call between Alec and Buster, Alec asked if Buster is okay with letting Jim go dove hunting on Moselle. He's not a city boy. Oh, we know he's not a city boy. Jim goes from, I'm just a city boy, to, were they mudding in that truck? We know it's all defense bullshit, but we accept it because it's defense bullshit. Send some Krispy Kreme to the witness. I think the jury needs Krispy Kremes for tasting while they're deliberating. Under Your Scars said, thank you for your coverage and commentary. Love it. Had to go out, so rewind a bit after dinner. You didn't miss much. This morning was better. This morning was real good, and then the last 30 minutes of this evening. I think some of Paul's friends are coming to the conclusion his own father took him away from them. Maybe. I'm Jelly. I follow you too and miss flying places to go see them. Go fill your soul up. That is a great Dave reference. I will absolutely go fill my soul up with my friends. I love it. It's Concert 55. Sharon Keen Sharp, hello. It's my 65th birthday. Happy birthday. And y'all are the friends I'm excited to be with today. We're excited that you're here. And the Law Nerds are the best community on the internet. I love spending my days with y'all. It's the only way I can get through this trial. Otherwise, I'd be screaming at my computer screen alone. Greta said, I find it strange that a senator would abandon his legislator for weeks to defend a friend. Seems like he's really tight with Alec. He does seem really tight with Alec. I don't know if legislation or the legislature in South Carolina is in session. It seems like they are. It's weird. Adventurous spirit. Emily, you're the real deal. I'm too old to be anything else. Cussing and all. Fuck yes. So glad I found your channel and subscribed. I'm glad you're here. I mean, we are what we are. Can we beg the court's indulgence for pictures of the dogs? I think that's an absolutely great point. I think we need videos of Bubba to determine how good of a boy he is, because he's been slandered this entire fucking trial. Chevy says, I'm challenging Runkle on gun knowledge at this point. We'll ask Runkle. This kid is the nail in Alec Murdaugh's coffin. Cash? Damn. The cash is interesting. Blanca said Alec Murdaugh wanted Paul Murdaugh to come home to fix the sunflowers because he had a hunt planned. Why hadn't we heard from anybody else about the hunt that was planned. We heard a lot about the sunflowers. We did not hear about the hunt. That's a good point. People might not have had that detail. Lauren said, did I mishear or did he testify earlier that the fam would always stop by the kennels before leaving the property when they knew people were there? No, that's what he said. He said they would always stop by the kennels. So we're just going to get cuddled up because it's just a few of us on the internet here chatting. A circumstantial case is built by these little puzzle pieces that you tie together at the end. And this puzzle piece really is, he asked this witness to say something different. He asked the other witness to say something different. He said he wasn't at the kennels and then he was. He always drives by the kennels as somebody is there and then he didn't. Alex always on his phone and then he wasn't during this one period of time, but he said he was sleeping, but he wasn't really sleeping because we know he was at the kennels. It's building all these inconsistencies and this timeline of, but who else was there? Someone took a shower, someone changed clothes, the guns are missing, the clothes are missing. That's a circumstantial case. You can convict on purely circumstantial evidence. It happens all the time. Most crimes don't have direct evidence. Just had a thought, maybe the gun is buried with the sunflowers. People have lots of theories on where the guns are buried. I don't know. What about the defense asking about Cousin Eddie? Odd to me. Odd, but interesting. Mandy Matty retweeted a picture of Sweet Bubba. We need that immediately. We've learned about other puppers in this trial. Have y'all forgotten Evo? It feels like Evo was 100 years ago, but Evo also seemed like the goodest boy that ever good boyed. I will retweet that because I've turned off my second monitor because I was getting ready to go because it is time. It is time. We got to go eat. We got to go get ready for Dave. And I will go to Twitter and you guys can all go check out Mandy Matney's Twitter for pictures of Bubba. We need to see the photos of the pupper and I will talk about it earlier. All right. With that, y'all, thank you for being Law Nerds. Thank you for being here. I will be back Monday. I will be over on Law Nerds Unite, kind of doing a quick rundown of today, and then I will post some concert stuff there. I will maybe post a little on Instagram tomorrow, but we'll see. Most concerts, I'm just yelling my head off, and hopefully my voice will recover to record the podcast later. If you have not checked out this week's Emily Show podcast, it is about Tom Girardi and all of the fuckery that we learned about in that indictment. Next week's podcast, we are talking all about Rust. So I will be switching gears to talk about Rust in next week's Emily Show podcast. Thank you for always making it #1 in entertainment news. I appreciate it. Y'all, we all need a night off. Y'all have been in court for 3 weeks. You've done incredible work, team. Law Nerds, we've got this. Here's to a 5-week trial. When we started this, we're like 3-week trial. We've got this. And now we're in a 5-week trial. Yes, we sure are. I will see y'all around the interwebs and then again on Monday when we start nice and early for this trial. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Have fun. Bye.
You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.